A boundless storm erupted without warning. Reality itself twisted, drawing countless currents of wind and pressure together into a violent gale. The man in the trench coat did not dare attack SCP-053 directly. Instead, invisible gusts converged, weaving silently into chains meant to restrain her. But, TXT, you uncle, what are you doing? SCP-053 lifted her head, trembling like a frightened animal. Her instinct screamed danger. Trying to avoid the tightening restraints, she stumbled straight into the turbulent wind. It hurts! Tears welled in the little girl's eyes. In the moment pain was inflicted. The curse awakened. The anti-kill mechanism detonated instantly. The man in the trench coat widened his eyes. Clutching his chest, he collapsed. Even a level 4 reality bender could not escape the backlash. Under an unseen force, his heart seized, and death claimed him on the spot. But he was still a reality bender. Distortion. As life faded, he twisted reality itself and forced his body upright once more. He could not alter SCP-053's counterattack rule, but he could resist dying from cardiac failure. Barely. I can't do this many times. His body shook violently. Forcing death aside came at a terrible cost. Flesh and organs were already breaking down. At most, he could repeat this once or twice. After that, even without SCP-053's passive triggering, his body would collapse into nothingness. No, direct containment was impossible. SCP-053 was already in a stress state. That won't work. The man in the trench coat shook his head. A level 4 reality bender was no expendable pawn. He was Foundation backbone. Experience had taught him restraint. Intelligence, no matter how weak, was still intelligence. Not a rigid program like SCP-096. Retreat. He withdrew step by step, deliberately dispersing the hurricane so SCP-053 could escape its range. An unremarkable retreat, but to the world watching, it was an earthquake. The internet exploded. What? The Foundation retreated? Even they can't handle her. That's not a little girl. That's the devil. It's over, completely over. I'm leaving the country. I'm emigrating. Panic that had been suppressed finally burst free. Wails and cries spread like a funeral dirge. It felt like the white flag had been raised. Mutant Academy. Professor, what do we do? Has the Foundation failed? Storm's expression was grim. Unlike spectators far away, the Academy was dangerously close. If Hell's Kitchen fell, with that infection effect, their fall would only be a matter of time. And the worst possibility had occurred. Containment failure. Failure? Professor X shook his head calmly. Not so fast. This is only the beginning. The containment method itself wasn't wrong. SCP-053 had merely entered a stress response, instinctively rejecting all external interference. That's why the backlash occurred. He trusted the Foundation. They won't act recklessly. Kamartaj, what now? The Foundation lost control. What are we supposed to do? Chaos erupted. The Ancient One was gone. Mages argued. Apprentices panicked. Mordo tried to step forward. Wong insisted on consulting Dr. Strange. Division formed instantly. Military command. Ha ha ha. Some laughed openly. Since the Foundation's rise, their ambitions have been suppressed time and again. Seeing the Foundation stumble brought obvious schadenfreude. Enough. A general snapped coldly. Hell's Kitchen is still Imperial territory. If that thing leaves, we won't be able to stop it. Eagle Land wasn't stupid. This isn't the time to gloat. He turned sharply. Kodo. The laughter died instantly. You'll take heavy equipment and suppress it. Kodo's face went green. Spear Bureau. Mistakes. Zheng Xian frowned. A stress response oversight like this doesn't fit the Foundation. They don't make beginner errors. His pupils contracted. Did something uncontrollable interfere? A worse possibility loomed. Asgard. Odin gripped Gungnir, staring skyward. This may be an opportunity, Loki murmured, eyes alight. Chaos favored schemers. But none of that mattered. Because at the center of the storm, Lin Xiu didn't even blink. Pocket space. Tisk. So restraining her really was useless. Lin Xiu watched the feed, utterly calm. This outcome was expected. He had never believed a level 4 reality bender could retrieve SCP-053. The man in the trench coat was never the main force. Not even close. He was a precautionary lock. His true task was to deter interference from other extraordinary forces. As for SCP-053, the real solution was already in motion. Plan A. Execute. Yes. Simultaneously, trenchcoat operatives and special teams acknowledged. Fighter hatches opened with practiced precision. The same familiar rhythm. The same terrifying efficiency. What is that? The public stared in disbelief. The Foundation's aircraft were larger than ever before. Not by a little. Even the blacklight tyrants escorting them looked dwarfed. Then, a massive steel cube was deployed, 3 to 5 meters tall, walls impossibly thick, like a mobile prison. Shield. Why does that look familiar? Nick Fury's eye narrowed. Then, realization struck. Oh no, military command. That thing. Martial law now. Lockdown Hell's Kitchen, Linton, Queens, highest alert. Nuclear weapons on standby. The general's hand trembled as he signed. Hell's Kitchen. Click. Crack. The cube disassembled. Heavy footsteps followed. The ground shook. A dark, reptilian body emerged. 3 to 5 meters tall. Scarred scales regenerated rapidly. The unkillable horror. SCP-682. Loki froze. That monster. He remembered. Odin's strike had failed. Gungnir itself bore its bite marks. No, destroy evil lizard. But then, something impossible happened. SCP-053 looked at SCP-682. And SCP-682 knelt. No aggression. No hostility. The immortal devourer lay still. Like a trained beast. A puppy. Loki whispered, horrified. The little girl reached out, touched its head, and the monster allowed it. The deadliest creature on record. Gentle. Obedient. Lin Xiu watched quietly. This was the most dangerous moment. The death night of apocalypse. And her mount. If chaos erupted now, even a cosmic emperor wouldn't escape unscathed. Abby, doll-like and quiet, slowly squatted down. She gently stroked Grandpa 682's head. A low, contented sound escaped the terrifying creature's throat. On the replayed footage, the scene looked almost harmonious. Warm, even. But for those who knew who they really were, it was nothing short of worldview shattering. They're the most dangerous containment objects. SCP-682, SCP-053. These are reality-warping horrors beyond all common sense. How is this even possible? Loki stared at the screen, eyes wide in disbelief. His memory had never failed him. He never mixed up numbers. One was an immortal monstrosity that had destroyed entire island nations and even damaged the Eternal Spear. The other was a walking catastrophe who, without lifting a finger, could drive everyone around her into homicidal madness. 2 unimaginable anomalies. And yet now, they looked like a gentle little girl and her obedient old dog. Loki's head buzzed. Did I fall under some illusion? He raised his scepter. The Mind Stone flared, light reflecting cold clarity into his eyes. If he wasn't insane, then the world was. Shield. This is hell, Nick Fury muttered stiffly. He looked frozen, as if someone had pressed pause on him. Phil Coulson nudged him cautiously, half expecting him to be unconscious. Nick Fury finally snapped out of it, swearing under his breath as he stared at the screen again, jaw tight. Forget the Foundation's audacity. Forget dragging SCP-682 out just to contain SCP-053. That alone had probably broken countless people's spines from sheer shock. But this, SCP-053, the seemingly harmless little girl, she made SCP-682 lower its head. Could it be, Fury murmured, eyes narrowing, that this child's identity is far more dangerous than it appears? His instinct screamed at him. Authority? No, more than that. This obedience looks structural, like staff and superior. as if she carries the shadow of something greater. Fury's gaze sharpened. Is she connected to some higher existence, sharing its authority? By sheer accident. He wasn't wrong, just not entirely right. Apocalyptic Death Knight, the Gray Horse, the embodiment of death itself. SCP-053 had never been the subordinate. She was the source. Asgard. Odin frowned deeply. Gungnir tightened in his grasp, then loosened. Again and again. After a long silence, he exhaled and let the tension fade. Observe first, he said gravely. What exactly is the Foundation planning? The Bifrost shimmered at his feet, ready at a moment's notice. Manhattan. Fascinating, Dr. Manhattan murmured. There is something deeper within that girl. An unknown force, death, distortion, immortality. He smiled faintly. It smells like death. He walked unseen among the crowd. A god among mortals. Military command. General, the maximum yield payload is armed. Do we proceed? The young major, general, swallowed hard. If launched, it would erase an entire district. Economic collapse would follow. Recovery could take decades. Dropping the bomb was easy. Living with the consequences was not. The general stared at the screen, silent, long enough that others wondered if he'd fallen asleep. Finally, no. Stand down. Not just fear of fallout restrained him, but awe. That unnatural harmony between SCP-053 and SCP-682. He wouldn't gamble humanity on a nuke. Wait for the Foundation. Pocket space. Lin Xiu raised an eyebrow. No nukes. No panic. How obedient. He chuckled softly. His attention returned to the screen. The containment was nearing completion. Hell's Kitchen. Time passed. With SCP-682 present, Abby's anxiety faded. She accepted the paint brushes, happily scribbling all over 682's armored body. The monster didn't resist. Docile, patient, like an old tortoise enduring a child's play. The tension melted away. Now, Lin Xiu ordered. The containment team moved. A new structure was deployed. 6 meters square. Fully furnished. Bedrooms, medical facilities, toys, books. A pink, gentle environment designed perfectly for a child. Abby entered without resistance. Relief rippled across the world. Next, 682. With Lin Xiu's control, it complied. The operation concluded flawlessly. As the team withdrew, "Wait!" Spider-Man shouted. "Please, help Mr. Matthew." Daredevil, still trapped in SCP-053's influence. Lin Xiu paused. Fine. Reality twisted. The corruption unraveled. Daredevil collapsed, alive. Spider-Man exhaled in relief. Before he could thank them, they vanished. Foundation base. Containment complete. Ding. SCP-053 successfully contained. Reward. Controllable SCP-053. Lin Xiu smacked his lips. Straight to storage. He read the description carefully. Death-linked. High-dimensional projection. Gray horse. Figures. Then he laughed. Exposure value surged. Worth it. Extract next containment. Yes. Light flashed. Little angel. Lin Xiu blinked. Didn't expect that. He waved his hand. Random deployment. Dark dimension. Endless darkness. Ancient One walked forward calmly. The darkness recoiled. Dormammu, she said softly. I've come.
Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support, we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
Dormammu, here I come. The faint voice of Ancient One resounded, and the surroundings seemed to be surrounded by substantial dark energy. Countless tentacles like shapes spread out, showing their teeth and claws. But, compared to the ferocious deep-sea octopus, the pulsating dark energy is more like fried kitten? Like a cat being stimulated by someone, it feels like its hair is blown instantly. Ancient One, Are you finally going to sink into darkness? A big face enveloping the world emerges from the dark energy, and a grand voice echoes in the dark dimension. Maybe Ancient One's gaze remained unchanged, his expression noncommittal. Only the movements of the hands remained firm. I need your strength. A plain voice sounded from the corner of Ancient One's mouth. Orange-red magic radiance bloomed, and energy chains extended from the magic circle, pouring into the dark dimension behind Dormammu. **** hole. You want to die? Ancient One. Stop it. Dormammu exploded in an instant. He was so angry just now, his head almost tilted in anger. Look at what this smelly and shameless guy is doing. If you have nothing to do, come to draw his strength again. Usually, taking advantage of his unpreparedness, secretly absorbing it from the dark dimension, poaching his corners, and prolonging his life. Let's just live. Today, unexpectedly, he swaggered over and robbed him directly, forcibly stealing his power. Face-to-face NTR. Ancient One. UP ******* D me off. Dormammu was furious in his heart, and the big face covering the universe kept twisting. Young people don't talk about martial arts. Come to cheat on me, an old comrade. Come to sneak attack, come to rob. Do you really think he, the Dark Lord, is easy to bully? Die to me. The surging dark energy swarmed towards Ancient One's body. Even if he can't come down in person because of the dimension limitation, he can't deal with Ancient One with Time Gem. But, no matter what, she is just a human being, and the capacity of her body is limited. Once she is infected by dark energy, she will instantly become his slave. At any cost, Dormammu stuffed all the energy there, intending to explode Ancient One. Pity. It just fell into the arms of Ancient One. Tear. The hood covering her was torn apart by invisible forces, revealing the true face in the shadows. Ancient One. Your eyes. Dormammu's pupil shrank. The eyes of Ancient One, at some point, were covered with scales of unknown creatures. On the flesh and blood, edges and corners emerged, and the pupils inside also turned into vertical pupils. The cold gaze made Dormammu feel like a war zone in his heart. The divinity flows, the essence transcends concept. Even if it is only a reflection in time, it still horrifies Dormammu. What do you want to do? Dormammu panicked a bit. I said, I need your calendar. Ancient One endured the pain and extracted the dark energy in the dimension into her body. The divinity from the ancient dragon mother can only be restrained by introducing other forces. Let the two forces form a balance. She can take advantage of the fire, take advantage of the divinity in the reflection of time and space, or swallow the dark power of Dormammu. One of a kind, only to be infected and become a slave. Ancient One often draws on powers from other dimensions and has experience with these. You're crazy. You will be taken over by that monster. Dormammu yelled angrily. His power was continuously draining, and the horrifying aura in Ancient One's body became even more horrifying amidst the squirming of flesh and blood, as if it was going from the past to reality. It was only when he was firmly resisted that he was not offside. I need strength. It takes strength to protect the Earth. Humanity, don't pin your hopes on others. Them. Need your own strength. In the dark dimension, the exposure video of the Foundation can still be seen. A new countdown has appeared again. How could she stand still as an Asgardian of Earth? With her strength, it has become more and more difficult to deal with the frequent crises on the Earth. I need more power. Ancient One lowered his head with a cold expression. Ah, Ancient One, I curse you. Those who devour darkness will sink into darkness forever. Dormammu, who was mercilessly squeezed, let out a mournful wail. He wanted to resist normally, but the power in Ancient One's right eye not only suppressed his small movements. Magical chains run through the dark dimension. Ancient One let go completely, starting to frantically steal his power. Dormammu's huge face that covered the sky and the sun soon became smaller, and even his expression became a little sluggish, as if he had been squeezed dry. Maybe Ancient One's expression remained unchanged. Since absorbing the dark energy hundreds of years ago, she has had the consciousness to die generously. Doesn't care much about Dormammu's curse. Ancient One looked up. The keratinized right eye has been completely transformed into a vertical pupil. The absorbed dark energy poured into the left side, and the two forces with very different natures barely formed a delicate balance under the massive infusion. This kind of behavior was like dancing on the tip of a knife. Whenever an accident happens, the whole head explodes. Ancient One gritted his teeth to endure the pain. His whole body was wet with sweat, and he half opened his eyes to look at the sky screen with difficulty. Finally, not missed. Countdown to exposure of the 9th containment object. 6 hours and 30 minutes. SHIELD. The Hell's Kitchen gang organization was completely destroyed, Daredevil attacked and killed Jean Bin, and the Underworld Emperor died. What is this all about? Nick Fury patiently flipped through the report document in his hand and threw it aside with his hand. He's an SHIELD. The scope of responsibility is world peace and protecting the Earth. What did the information of the gangster give him? He's not in charge of crime prevention. SHIELD isn't that busy. Cough, cough. It's the military who came to ask us for someone. Phil Coulson seemed to have a perception of the displeasure in his eyes, and he quickly responded. Taking advantage of the spread of SCP-053's characteristics, the gangsters in Hell's Kitchen basically died of cannibalism, or heart disease, or epileptic seizures. Jean Bing's forces are empty. After getting rid of the influence of the killing, Daredevil directly attacked Jean Bin's lair, killed him by surprise, and we, Spider-Man, shot together with him. Phil Coulson scratched his head, embarrassed. Daredevil mixed with Spider-Man, and no one has been found. But, little Spider-Man, when I pulled Tony into the Avengers Alliance before, I also invited him in, by the way. You won't forget, will you? Phil Coulson expressed his suspicion with his eyes. But it was quickly rejected by Nick Fury with a face of righteous words. Oh, that's right. Let them stay where it's cool. Nick Fury doesn't give face at all. He doesn't even need the Security Council. Not to mention the military of Eagle Sauce. They SHIELD don't have to be restricted by Hawk Sauce. It's just a bully. If you die, you die. What do you care about? How few people died in Hell's Kitchen? Braised eggs have always been short-sighted. Tell them, now is not the time for human strife. With a gloomy face, Nick Fury got up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking at the sky through the glass. Canopy. The huge countdown began to spin again. Countdown. 3 hours and 47 minutes. Military. General. Our request has been denied by S.H.I.E.L.D. The director also said that the Earth is in crisis, not the time for internal strife. The communications soldier trotted in and gave a military salute. Come forward as a guarantor. The Army general had a cold face. With the emergence of the Foundation, one after another anomalies continued to come. Their identity as the world's policemen, along with their hegemony, gradually disappeared forever. Now, guys from SHIELD dare to jump out to protect people. MB, threatening them with a crisis? The Army general had a dark face and was about to say something when he slapped the table angrily, but when he got up, he caught sight of the time in the video that kept going backwards from the corner of his eye. Countdown. 3 hours and 20 minutes. The whole person seemed to be emptied of confidence in an instant. Boom. Sit down hard again. The dark clouds on his face were darker, as if he had been coated with charcoal. Stark building. Spider-Man and Daredevil, who could not be found by the outside military, all gathered on the innermost top floor. Come over. I'll tailor a battle suit for you. Tony waved at little Spider-Man. The brand new battle suit design takes a lot of time to get used to. Tony directly disassembled a skeleton backbone from the ready-made mecha and used it as a blueprint for adjustment and modification. Modified Ultron, too. The performance is already quite good, and the parameters in all aspects are very high. Not to mention transitional use. Even if it is used as the main battle suit, it will become a problem. Dude, you get a set too. Tony has always been forthright, especially to superheroes. Can be regarded as a life mentor by little Spider-Man. There is no need to doubt the quality of the other party. The performance in the previous video can also explain a lot of things. Tisk, guys, time is running out. We have to hurry up. Tony clapped his hands. Start all the spare robotic arms and work with multiple threads at the same time. Out of the corner of his eye, he glanced at the video. Countdown, 2 hours and 18 minutes. Asgard. Bifrost passes through the 9 realms. Come out from the light curtain. Loki ran head-on into the fully armed worker in destroyer armor. Is Odin trying to stop that monster? Asgard simply had no opponent worthy of him, so solemn. So, it could only be because of Midgard, the containment SCP-053 I just faced. Loki paused slightly, feeling a little astringent in his heart. But, anyway, he is also the god of tricks. Loki quickly controlled his emotions and raised his head. Father, I'm back. Here you go. The corners of Odin's mouth curved slightly, and a rare smile emerged. I didn't solve that monster. I shamed Asgard. Loki blushed a little, gritted his teeth, and handed the scepter in his hand to Odin. It's something from Thanos, who himself chose Asgard to definitely hand it over. Do not worry about it. Odin shook his head. As for the mind gem in Loki's hand, the power of Odin poured out. The destroyer burst into glory, and the energy poured into the scepter, forming a magic oath. In the name of the God King of Asgard, I promise you the righteousness you deserve. This thing, be at your disposal. The power of infinite gems, Odin can't affect, but he can give magic blessing to scepter. Eliminate hidden dangers that may exist inside, and give Loki permission to become the only user of scepter. Others who try to steal this treasure will be cursed by the power of Odin. Take it, but remember, do not indulge in the power of the gem. Odin spoke solemnly. The gem has infinite power, but the person who holds the gem is far from infinite. He is not talking nonsense, except for the real fitters of the gems. Efta, it's hard to bring out the true power of infinite gems. Even if it is used reluctantly, the actual effect is like a pheasant, and for the real strong, it is just tasteless. Otherwise, Odin wasn't indifferent to gems either. In the original book, he even voluntarily decided to leave Reality Gem. After telling Loki, Odin just raised his head to look at the sky, frowning. The expression is dignified. Countdown, 1 hour and 40 minutes. Is a new storm about to start? Superman and Bruce stay together, one basking in the sun to absorb the sun's energy. One is scribbled and changed on paper, with a semi-finished special battle suit next to it. But, 2 people looking at the screen. The expressions coincided with a little dignified. It's a little too late. Bruce frowned. He was researching a battle suit that would allow Superman to utilize the yellow light of the sun faster, increase the absorption speed, and enhance the utilization efficiency. A 2-pronged approach. It has already taken shape. 182. Time? I can only try to fight. Bruce murmured softly. The Batmobile is also shape-shifting into a small workshop operation. Glancing up at the screen, the countdown is almost at the end. Countdown, 0 hour, 59 minutes. In the different moods of countless people, there is anticipation, there is boredom, there is fear. But, after all, it still does not affect the time to continue to move forward. Tick. Countdown to 0. Exposure. The 9th containment item SCP-049 Epidemic Doctor. Tread. 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 Someone was approaching from the darkness with rhythmic sound. Wait until he comes out of the shadows. The onlookers in front of the screen finally saw his real appearance clearly. It looks like a humanoid entity, about 1.9 meters tall, wearing a thick black robe. The beak mask on his face seems to confirm his identity. He resembles a medieval plague doctor. I can't say it's the same. I can only say it's the same. Excuse me, doctor? This time the object is actually a doctor. Plague doctor? Plague doctor? Is it really the same as his appearance? A doctor who treats the plague? Hey, the doctor who treats the disease? Then this time, it's not a big profit. The hot searches on the internet were instantly occupied by epidemic doctors. All kinds of bullet screens are overwhelming. Many people are full of expectations, hoping that the epidemic doctor will treat them. Holder for the doctor profession. It must be great for healing, right? An ancient doctor who treated the Black Death in the Middle Ages? Tony whispered softly. As a top student, he definitely knows this history. The Black Death, also known as the plague, was rampant in the Middle Ages. Many doctors used this kind of attire as their daily routine, walking on the streets to treat diseases and risking their lives in the plague for treatment. Except, history has proven their therapeutic effectiveness to be largely useless. But the containment has always been something beyond the rules, and it is speculated that there is no such thing according to common sense. If I really want to describe it, more towards gratitude, Tony raised his eyebrows. His eyes fell on a mecha not far away. When it fell to Ozu, it was suspected of being infected with some kind of anomaly related to the birth of the SCP-2000 machine. The complementary power has been invaded to constantly deduce perfection upwards. Technology in mecha. In a way, it was even a bit beyond Tony's comprehension. Will be a doctor who can cure all plagues? Tony looked up, anticipation in his eyes. Solve the plague? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Nick Fury patted the table, his one eye shone with wisdom, as if he had seen through everything. Joke. He has already seen through the rules in these exposure videos. He didn't believe it. The thing that descended was a harmless little cutie. Angel in white who heals and saves lives? That thing only exists in dreams. The epidemic doctor this time. Maybe it's another terrifying monster beyond imagination. Absolute. Not to be taken lightly. Everyone, enter a state of combat readiness. Give me 100% attention, stare at the screen, and analyze the content inside. Face these twisted realities beyond the containment of the rules. We humans, we have no right to be careless. Nick Fury's expression was serious. As the S.H.I.E.L.D. director who guards the Earth, he can't afford to have any luck. Doctor? Odin's eyes moved slightly. This kind of occupation also exists in the Protoss of Asgard. But this time a monster is a doctor. Odin frowned, looking at the epidemic doctor with a dignified expression. No way. The appearance of the epidemic doctor is really scary. Whose serious doctor wears a bird's beak mask every day to scare people? That mask seems to be growing on his flesh and blood, becoming a part of his body. Odin frowned. There was some uncertainty in his tone. Gotham City. Looks like there's still time. Bruce breathed a sigh of relief, regardless of whether the plague doctor this time is the plague doctor guessed by everyone. Look at his outfit. Still in the humanoid category, it shouldn't be some kind of natural disaster that destroys the world. Take it easy for now. He still has time. Bruce wrote quickly and seized the time to change the details of the battle suit. In the small workshop next to it, the transmission production line has already begun to be pulled out, and parts are being replenished in full swing. In the guesswork of countless people with different thoughts. The screen in the exposure video lit up again. Light curtain up. The plague doctor wearing a bird's beak mask seemed to be talking to someone. The subtitles show fluent Middle World French, quite in line with the clothes he is wearing. Can speak multiple languages but lean towards English or medieval French, generally able to converse in a friendly manner, willing to cooperate with the staff. Kind and friendly, able to talk, happy to collaborate. The appearance of several key subtitles instantly caught the attention of top organizations. Countless people rejoiced in their hearts. It has appeared so many times, and this is the only containment that can communicate. Could it really be the Welfare Bureau this time? Even Nick Fury, who has always been cautious, is beginning to be tempted. However, just when they were excited, thinking of ways how to communicate with the epidemic doctor, try to get as much relevant information as possible, and try to use him as a way to break through to understand the nature of the contained objects and to achieve a breakthrough. A basin of cold water fell down with a bang. After perception of its so-called plague, it will become quite irritable and even aggressive. Warn, be sure not to come into contact with the plague doctor. After being touched by it, the living body will immediately enter death After being touched by him, the living body will immediately enter death. You call this thing an epidemic doctor? This is obviously Death God. Nick Fury gasped because there were too many agents around him, so he suppressed the words in his heart and did not speak out. Otherwise, the stewed egg has long been unable to hold back and complained. He knew that there were problems with the names of these exposed contents. Big problem. Your doctor dies when he touches someone? Is this still a hammer operation? Change the name. Just call it Death God. This is even more cruel than Death God. Death God must at least use a sickle to harvest. You could just touch it with your hands. The corners of Nick Fury's mouth twitched. I knew the name was outrageous, but I didn't expect it to be so outrageous. However, before he could catch his breath, even more shocking content has appeared again. Director, look. Phil Coulson pointed to the screen in shock. For the organisms identified by the epidemic doctor as infected with the plague, the epidemic doctor will cure them and try to eliminate the plague, but the result is that the organism will die directly with a high probability. Next, the epidemic doctor will perform rough surgery on the corpse, and the surgery will often lead to the appearance of SCP-049-2, but not every time it can be successful. SCP-049-2 entities are corpses resurrected through SCP-049 surgery. These entities seem to be unable to maintain their original memory and mental function, only the basic movement ability and reaction mechanism of gimbry. The entity is not active, rarely moves, and basically walks around. If it is provoked or finds SCP-049 instructions, it will become extremely aggressive. 1. SCP-049-2 has active physiology, but it is very different from currently known human physiology. Despite these changes, SCP-049 finally claims that these entities have been cured. Cure. You call it cure? This is the so-called cure. Nick Fury stared. Although I haven't seen the real evidence, but from the text description and the exposed content, I feel that I can see a lot of things. Touch. Kill people. Then reassemble and resurrect. Become a slave who obeys his orders. This is clearly an infection process. Result. Call this resurrection. The corner of Nick Fury's mouth twitched slightly, and he couldn't hold his breath anymore. Shameless. Can't go too far either. But resurrection? Nick Fury's heart tightened. This kind of ability that transcends reality and only exists in fantasy is actually going to appear, no matter how many resurrection conditions are added. He is essentially revived. Let people break free from the shackles of death and reconnect with life. It is absolutely irresistible for people of high position and authority. Braised eggs often deal with those high-ranking people, and they have already explored their psychology very thoroughly. Okay, martial law for all agents. Nick Fury stared. He could feel that the real storm was about to come. Resurrection. The pupils of the politicians shrank. I didn't get the Fountain of Youth before, so this doctor who can be resurrected must be in the bag. Tell. This is not a treasure. Rather, it comes from the ability of the containment. There are absolutely no fewer individuals who can enjoy the resurrection effect. It belongs to the Empire. The general stood up excitedly. But it said that after the resurrection, the disadvantages of the individual seem to be very serious. There was some hesitation on the young lady's face. A large piece of text is talking about the disadvantages of resurrection. After being revived by a plague doctor and becoming an SCP-049-2 individual, can it really be called a human? His mind was full of doubts. Unimportant. The general shook his head. What we want is to resurrect the ability. As long as it can be resurrected, other disadvantages can be analyzed through experiments, and then we can avoid and change it bit by bit. No matter what, the ability it shows is just a somewhat special human being. Use the third type contact plan. Get ready to deal with Omega-level mutants, and deal with him. The Army General's eyes were cold, and in his vicissitudes of life, there was a look that was bound to win. Various abilities currently exposed by epidemiologists. It's just like a special mutant. So what if you die when you touch your body? Just avoid physical contact. Monster? The Eagle Sauce are never afraid of monsters. The value he represents is enough for the Empire to pay any price. Resurrection. Once the Empire interprets the mystery of resurrection from it, it means they have control of life. Us, to be a god, to replace a god, to surpass a god. This is the opportunity. The army general's face was full of fanaticism, and his old face was instantly radiant. Zero, seeking flowers. He is also about to face old age and death. And this is his hope for the future. Remember, at all costs, a cold voice sounded from the corner of his mouth, and countless armored division troops were ready to go. Sky satellite lock. All fighter columns were also mobilized. There are basically no young people who can climb to high-level positions. They're all old people with vicissitudes of life. Their fear of death is the greatest. Resurrection. Bruce frowned. He sneered at this twisted rule thing. In the exposed content, the large text descriptions are already very detailed. Not so much a resurrection, rather an infection. Infected by the power of the plague doctor, he became a walking dead, an unknown creature that obeyed his orders. Bruce shook his head, continuing to work hard at the work in hand. The gradually formed battlesuit can already see a handsome silhouette. It matches Superman's exaggerated muscles very well. End of exposure. SCP-049, Epidemic Doctor. Coming. The picture in the video becomes dark, then dimly light up. The location has changed from a dark isolation room to a sunny place. Like in the open outdoors, the traffic on both sides of the road is not too much, just like most city streets. But there are many tall buildings around. One by one, they rose from the ground and went straight to the sky. The upper half of the building was shrouded in the Minister of Yin Yuan. It's like a city in the clouds. The plague, the taste of the plague doctor who appeared on the street. At the last moment, he was still gentle and polite, and he seemed to greet him very well. Next moment, it's like smelling something special. The whole person instantly became uneasy. His frenzied expression can be clearly seen from his actions. The probe is circling around. After a brief impatience, the source of the breath that made him uneasy was quickly located. It's there. The epidemic doctor's eyes were fixed, and he locked on the position and quickly stepped forward. But the way he acts is more common. Not much different from the common people. It's just a trot, and the speed can't be said to be fast. It's the level of common people. Some professional athletes are faster than him. The mediocre performance of the epidemic doctor made those who coveted secretly firm their minds. Good baby. Good chance. Quick. Mobilize satellites. Lock the position of this tall building. Let the columns of fighter jets search across the sky. Send all the heavy equipment troops out and seal off all the surrounding areas. This is the treasure of the Empire. Never allow anyone to touch it. The general of the army was panting heavily, like an asthma attack, but the issuance of orders one after another was not affected at all, and various orders to command the battle were scattered like snowflakes. This eagle entrenched on the earth. Finally spread your wings. With the determination to win, he locked the target on the epidemic doctor and put out all his fighting power. Just mutants. They've been caught countless times already. This time, but a godsend opportunity. In the picture, the style of the surrounding buildings and the names of the shops are all unique to the Empire. That is to say, the place where the epidemic doctor appeared is in King Eagle Bing. Big profit. The corner of the general's mouth raised slightly, and he couldn't restrain the smile in his heart. Mutant Academy. Professor? Do we want it? Stormgirl was a little moved. Cyclops leads. Let Logan go with you. Professor X nodded happily. The X-Men were decisively sent out. The combat power currently shown by the epidemic doctor is not strong, at least compared with those unimaginable monsters. It is much safer, and most importantly, it has normal communication ability. The value definitely speaks for itself. Stark Building. Sir, the weapons of various countries under surveillance are operating on a large scale. Suspected space-based weapons focus. Tisk, those guys are really restless. Tony smacked his lips and complained endlessly, but the expression on his face was very serious. Tony has a clear understanding of the war potential of these giants. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. It's time for the Iron Man. With reference to Ultron, 2.5's improved Mark armor is actively integrated on Tony's body. All forces are eyeing each other. When hunting the Plague Doctor as prey, knowing nothing about it, it has trotted all the way to the destination she comments. I can't say it's the same. I can only say it's the same. Excuse me, doctor? This time the object is actually a doctor. Plague Doctor? Plague Doctor? Is it really the same as his appearance, a doctor who treats the plague? Hey, the doctor who treats the disease? Then this time, it's not a big profit. The hot searches on the internet were instantly occupied by epidemic doctors. All kinds of bullet screens are overwhelming. Many people are full of expectations, hoping that the epidemic doctor will treat them. Holder for the doctor profession. It must be great for healing, right? An ancient doctor who treated the Black Death in the Middle Ages? Tony whispered softly. As a top student, he definitely knows this history. The Black Death, also known as the plague, was rampant in the Middle Ages. Many doctors used this kind of attire as their daily routine, walking on the streets to treat diseases and risking their lives in the plague for treatment. Except, history has proven their therapeutic effectiveness to be largely useless. But the containment has always been something beyond the rules, and it is speculated that there is no such thing according to common sense. If I really want to describe it, more towards gratitude, Tony raised his eyebrows. His eyes fell on a mecha not far away. When it fell to Ozu, it was suspected of being infected with some kind of anomaly related to the birth of the SCP-2000 machine. The complementary power has been invaded to constantly deduce perfection upwards. Technology in mecha. In a way, it was even a bit beyond Tony's comprehension. Will be a doctor who can cure all plagues? Tony looked up, anticipation in his eyes. Solve the plague? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Nick Fury patted the table, his one eye shone with wisdom, as if he had seen through everything. Joke. He has already seen through the rules in these exposure videos. He didn't believe it. The thing that descended was a harmless little cutie. Angel in white who heals and saves lives? That thing only exists in dreams. The epidemic doctor this time. Maybe it's another terrifying monster beyond imagination. Absolute. Absolute. Not to be taken lightly. Everyone, enter a state of combat readiness. Give me 100% attention, stare at the screen, and analyze the content inside. Face these twisted realities beyond the containment of the rules. We humans, we have no right to be careless. Nick Fury's expression was serious. As the S.H.I.E.L.D. director who guards the Earth, he can't afford to have any luck. Doctor? Odin's eyes moved slightly. This kind of occupation also exists in the Protoss of Asgard. But this time a monster is a doctor. Odin frowned, looking at the epidemic doctor with a dignified expression. No way. The appearance of the epidemic doctor is really scary. Whose serious doctor wears a bird's beak mask every day to scare people? That mask seems to be growing on his flesh and blood, becoming a part of his body. Odin frowned. There was some uncertainty in his tone. Gotham City. Looks like there's still time. Bruce breathed a sigh of relief. Regardless of whether the plague doctor this time is the plague doctor guessed by everyone. Look at his outfit. Still in the humanoid category, it shouldn't be some kind of natural disaster that destroys the world. Take it easy for now. He still has time. Bruce wrote quickly and seized the time to change the details of the battle suit. In the small workshop next to it, the transmission production line has already begun to be pulled out, and parts are being replenished in full swing. In the guesswork of countless people with different thoughts, the screen in the exposure video lit up again. Light curtain up. The plague doctor wearing a bird's beak mask seemed to be talking to someone. The subtitles show fluent Middle World French, quite in line with the clothes he is wearing. Can speak multiple languages but lean towards English or medieval French, generally able to converse in a friendly manner, willing to cooperate with the staff. Kind and friendly, able to talk, happy to collaborate. The appearance of several key subtitles instantly caught the attention of top organizations. Countless people rejoiced in their hearts. It has appeared so many times, and this is the only containment that can communicate. Could it really be the Welfare Bureau this time? Even Nick Fury, who has always been cautious, is beginning to be tempted. However, just when they were excited, thinking of ways how to communicate with the epidemic doctor, try to get as much relevant information as possible, and try to use him as a way to break through to understand the nature of the contained objects and to achieve a breakthrough. A basin of cold water fell down with a bang. After perception of its so-called plague, it will become quite irritable and even aggressive. Warn, be sure not to come into contact with the plague doctor. After being touched by it, the living body will immediately enter death. After being touched by him, the living body will immediately enter death. You call this thing an epidemic doctor? This is obviously Death God. Nick Fury gasped because there were too many agents around him, so he suppressed the words in his heart and did not speak out. Otherwise, the stewed egg has long been unable to hold back and complained. He knew that there were problems with the names of these exposed contents. Big problem. Your doctor dies when he touches someone? Is this still a hammer operation? Change the name. Just call it Death God. This is even more cruel than Death God. Death God must at least use a sickle to harvest. You could just touch it with your hands. The corners of Nick Fury's mouth twitched. I knew the name was outrageous, but I didn't expect it to be so outrageous. However, before he could catch his breath, even more shocking content has appeared again. Director, look. Phil Coulson pointed to the screen in shock. For the organisms identified by the epidemic doctor as infected with the plague, the epidemic doctor will cure them and try to eliminate the plague, but the result is that the organism will die directly with a high probability. Next, the epidemic doctor will perform rough surgery on the corpse, and the surgery will often lead to the appearance of SCP-049-2, but not every time it can be successful. SCP-049-2 entities are corpses resurrected through SCP-049 surgery. These entities seem to be unable to maintain their original memory and mental function, only the basic movement ability and reaction mechanism of gimbry. The entity is not active, rarely moves, and basically walks around. If it is provoked or finds SCP-049 instructions, it will become extremely aggressive. 1. SCP-049-2 has active physiology, but it is very different from currently known human physiology. Despite these changes, SCP-049 finally claims that these entities have been cured. Cure. You call it cure? This is the so-called cure. Nick Fury stared. Although I haven't seen the real evidence, but from the text description in the exposed content, I feel that I can see a lot of things. Touch. Kill people. Then reassemble and resurrect. Become a slave who obeys his orders. This is clearly an infection process. Result. Call this resurrection. The corner of Nick Fury's mouth twitched slightly, and he couldn't hold his breath anymore. Shameless. Can't go too far either. But, resurrection? Nick Fury's heart tightened. This kind of ability that transcends reality and only exists in fantasy. The high-ranking military frowned. The staff member who was killed by the epidemic doctor just now was also a well-known scientist. He once entered the Special Talent Reserve pool of the military and now works in Dr. Amber's Research Institute. It's hard to say that the two are not related, just when these smart people associate the relationship in it. The epidemic doctor who killed the staff started his actions again. Plague. You have traces of the plague spreading on your body. Rest assured, I will heal you. Brush. With a wave of his right hand. From nowhere, he pulled out an old medical kit, comparable to the file size of a suitcase. In his thin body, there is no room to hide it. Spatial ability? Nick Fury's pupils shrank. He immediately noticed the unusual behavior of the epidemic doctor. Heart. The faint uneasiness became more obvious. That monster is definitely not as simple as it appears on the surface. Nick Fury stared. The expression on his face became more and more serious. He has a hunch. Those guys from the Eagle Sauce Army are likely to make a big somersault. Let Captain America slow down. We need to figure out what the plague SCP-053 is talking about. Nick Fury hits contact, just when the stewed egg was full of fear. The epidemic doctor also started his work. Help! Run! Mr. Kiri Amber is still inside. We need to be notified. B*********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** to? They must be messing around with genetic organisms and distorting the laws of the world. That's why they ushered in this monster trial. Run away. All kinds of figures running around in a panic, stumbled, and ran away. There was an unlucky urban beauty who lost her high heels. Red stiletto heels almost knocked out the innocent man in a suit behind her. The plague doctor paid no attention to the chaos. In his eyes, only the plague in sight. The medical kit was opened, containing a scalpel, tweezers, gauze, alcohol, and 4 bottles of medicines of different colors. Next, it's time to witness the miracle. The epidemic doctor took out a scalpel and made a mess of the corpse. At last, he didn't know where he took out the copper pipe and used a hand pump to pour a mess of liquid directly into the disemboweled body. The surgical style is full of barbarism and roughness, very medieval style. Gross. If this operation can be called surgery. Fart. This is not surgery at all. Oh my God, I really met Satan. This kind of crappy technology can it be called a doctor? My God, who told him that a saw can also be used in surgery? This is simply a blasphemy against doctors. Even if it is just a corpse, it shouldn't be subjected to such inhumane torture. That be asterisk, 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 asterisk. D taught him to be a doctor. I'm going to kill him. Countless medical students in front of the screen were furious on the spot. Operation? Save people? This is total nonsense. How can you cut the body at will during surgery and finally take out copper pipes, manual pumps, and other things? Medicine is a tight and neat discipline, not a small workshop smelting. However, it is when countless people complain, this is when they're messing around. Click, click, click. The staff member, who fell to the ground and had completely lost his vital signs, continued to stand up in a staggering struggle. Although his movements were a little stiff and his eyes were dull, he stood up, resurrected from the dead, to have life again. But what does it look like after resurrection? Ugh! What the hell is this vomit? Oh my God, it's the devil. 4 stitches? This is a stitches, right? Is he a doctor or a demon? Healing? You call this healing? What shit resurrection? It's too disgusting. Does anyone take care of it? Appear on the screen. Can no longer be called human. Even the most courageous people can't help but have nightmares when they look at the curious appearance. Totally a stitch monster. Even if it appears in a fantasy game, it has to be marked with a high-level mosaic, but it actually appeared in front of your eyes. Misplaced hands and feet. The head is messy. 2 eyes, one behind the other. I won't talk about other messy, twisted parts. If you describe the details, you won't be able to eat the next meal. Exactly what the ultimate stitched monster looks like. However, look at this twisted flesh and blood. The epidemic doctor nodded in satisfaction, showing the joy of dancing. It worked. The treatment is successful. It seems that our luck is not bad. Reviving a dead body is not considered a success. Only by completely eradicating the plague in the corpse. The regiment was artificially succeeded by the plague doctor. The probability of this is far from high. The operation was a success, and it's definitely happy. DJI. Others obviously can't understand this joy. Monster. This is the monster. Nick Fury frowned. Killing people and then splicing them into stitch monsters. Is this process called healing? This is obviously a crazy doctor who is insane. It must be contained and suppressed. Nick Fury frowned tightly. The thrilling stimulation brought to him by the epidemic doctor directly touched the strings in the heart of the marinated egg. Such a monster, Absolute 1.0, cannot fall into the hands of Jiang or other forces. It must be suppressed completely. If the Foundation doesn't make a move, Braised Eggs is already ready to be suppressed by God Zhou. Only in your own hands can you rest assured of the terrifying contained objects. Tread. The screen continues to rotate. There are a few more converts around the epidemic doctor. It's all a nightmare to watch, a complete suture monster, and the degree of distortion is frightening. RO. According to the description of the exposure video, or should suing be called SCP-049-2? Active physiology makes them move faster. Under the instructions of the epidemic doctor, it shattered the surrounding thick glass, constantly breaking through to the inner layer of the laboratory. In process, I can meet researchers constantly, and for them who scream in panic, the epidemic doctor has countless choices in most cases. Let them flee outside. Only a few times he will take the initiative to attack, muttering about the plague, and grab him, immediately triggering the instant death effect, and then the surgical resurrection, cutting with a scalpel and pouring a few bottles of colored medicine. A new stitch monster, fresh out of the oven. When he reaches the last floor, the SCP-049-2 of the surrounding followers has formed a rather impressive scale. Surrounded by one, numerous twisted arms and thighs can be seen. There's no way to look carefully. Open your eyes and look. You can even spit out the overnight meal. In front of the deepest laboratory, plague, a thicker trace of the plague, the epidemic doctor moved forward with a cold expression. A section of huge amounts of arm smashed the door first and rushed out from the inside. The twisted flesh was embedded with mechanical metal, like a terrifying human centipede. Get off my land! A beast-like roar erupted in the narrow space. The surging sound wave, the power seems to be real, sputtering and sweeping towards the surroundings. Rumble. The surrounding bricks and tiles on the walls smashed towards the unprepared epidemic doctor. In the circuit board where sparks fly. Roar. The crimson fire swept across the coverage, enveloping the epidemic doctor, and the rebroadcast video was replaced by the soaring flames. Damn it, it's so explosive. Where did this hunk come from? And he killed this monster directly. Hey, is the plague doctor dead? It goes without saying that it is completely covered by flames. Judging from the flame reaction, it is at least 1,000 degrees, and steel can be melted into molten iron. Let alone a person, he is lucky not to be carbonized and burned to slag. It's over. That monster is finally over. Great. There are all kinds of bullet screens on the internet, and they are directly swiping the screen on the computer. Countless people are happy with file size. Finally, I don't have to suffer from the visual impact of that monster. Who can resist the nausea of the stitching monster all over the screen? Dead. Absolutely not to die. Quick, let the fighter plane speed up. If there is a delay, everyone will be ordered to deal with it. Eagle Sauce military console. There was an angry roar, and the table was smashed into pieces. Joke. They haven't got the resurrection technology yet. How can the plague doctor die? This is a grand strategy related to the rise of the Empire. Being able to revive a pile of stitched corpses into stitch monsters is even more shocking and concerning than him directly bringing dead man back to life. It is completely the power to manipulate life. If this technology can be analyzed, even if it is only superficially used, it will also allow the development of biological science on a rocket. To know, in reality, living body transplantation can produce rejection reaction. Plague Doctor, you must not die. The general of the army stared at the screen. His eyes were greedy like a hungry wolf. Die. Nick Fury curled his lips. 06. He couldn't believe that SCP-053 would die so easily as containment object, except for the panacea of the first SCP-500 sequence. Other containment items, that is not perverted to the sky, die, especially by being burned to death. Thinking about it, he knows it's impossible. If the contents are so easy to get rid of, he doesn't have to be scared all the time. Compared with the life and death of the epidemic doctor, braised eggs are more concerned about the existence of flames. Seems to be, is a person in the flames soaring into the sky. Marinate vaguely found a human face, and the flames erupted from his throat. Besides, break through the door of the laboratory directly, just like the mechanical metal of the human centipede. TLF, it's from the same person. Under the spotlight, the flame finally gradually extinguished, and the content on the screen reappeared. The doctor stood on the ground unexpectedly. Looks unscathed. And the other side, it's you. Nick Fury's eyes almost popped out across the screen. Just now, watching the flames soaring into the sky. He also thought that the mutant was hidden in the laboratory, and even ordered Phil Coulson to screen suspicious characters. But the scene when the answer is revealed. Let the marinated eggs be surprised. Unexpected characters appear. Ms. Kiri Amber. How could it be him? I remember that the test file showed that he is definitely not a mutant. Nick Fury frowned. Could it be that the reason for the change is some kind of so-called plague? Director, maybe this extremist. Phil Coulson took out a report about Killian's special research. The scientific research he was engaged in and the materials he purchased recently happened to be related to the human centipede on his arm. The similarity contrast is extremely high. Extremists? Nick Fury frowned, and there seemed to be some impressions in his mind. Deep eyes. Want to think about some connections. But the speed of the epidemic doctor's action is obviously as fast as everyone imagined. Just out of the fire that Killian spewed out. Next second, Brush came directly in front of Killian. In the cramped laboratory, he didn't even have room to hide. *** hole. Get out. After an impotent and furious struggle, Killian was soon touched by the epidemic doctor. He had thought of prevention. He also deliberately put on the semi-transparent covering operation suit in the laboratory. From head to toe, only one mouth is left to breathe fire. However, with a swipe, the epidemic doctor took out a scalpel from nowhere and slashed at him lightly. The operation suit made of special materials can prevent high-pressure water blade cutting and instantly broke a big hole. The epidemic doctor easily touched the body. No matter how strong self-healing is, no matter how special extremis is. Same. Down in minutes. The plague must be eradicated. Don't worry. I'll leave it to you. The impatient voice of the epidemic doctor came from under the bird's beak mask, followed by a series of rough operations comparable to blacksmithing. There was a bang, bang, bang. Killian, who died, was lucky to be revived successfully. Turned into a Stitcher version, implanted with mechanical metal. He looks like a human centipede on his arm. After being turned into a suture monster by the epidemic doctor, he looks even more ferocious and terrifying, even more demonic than a demon. Mo Faith looked at it and called a good guy. This sells. If the Lord of Hell doesn't do it for you, it's all a shame. Very good. It's fine if you don't die. In the Ingjiang military command post, there was a constantly surprised voice. In the United Front Work Department, the staff officers and officers all burst into laughter. The epidemic doctor is not dead. The plan can continue. In the joy of singing praises, occasionally there are two people who have doubts. I noticed something was wrong from the behavior of the epidemic doctor just now and felt a little uneasy in my heart. I felt that the Empire's plan was a bit too careless, but I haven't had time to speak in my heart. Outside, The messenger immediately trotted in. "General, all troops are ready and have all arrived at their positions, ready to attack at any time. Please advise." Passed a stack of thick reports. The Army and Air Force all rushed to the position and formed an encirclement circle. "At all costs. Attack all. Be sure to contain the target. Suppress." The general's decisive voice sounded. Completely characterized this matter. "Yes." The instructions are conveyed rapidly downwards along various channels. At the same time, the epidemic doctor standing next to Killian suddenly looked up as if he had noticed something. Boom! A loud noise erupted. The outer layer of the science and technology building, which can withstand shells, was directly blasted by a large number of RPGs. Wearing tactical suits and well-equipped special forces, they forced their way through the air and shuttled through the inner floors. People running away from tall buildings. There was no surprise on his face. He methodically avoided the direction of the special forces. The speed of finding the bunker is not ambiguous at all. Free America. Shoot every day. Them. Already used to it. Rumble. After a series of messy door-breaking, the Griffin Special Forces finally rushed to a place not far from the epidemic doctor. With a microcharger, shock bombs, complete tactical equipment, and a few single-player RPG support, there are countless large snipers in the dark, and the heavy armored tank is not far away, complete with shells. Many countries in Africa have been able to fight several wars of extermination. Everyone, put your head in your hands and give up resistance. Otherwise, we will take coercive measures. N. After 2 repeated warnings, the Griffin combat team, who were waiting in full battle, rushed forward with a miniature submachine gun. Bang, bang, bang. Flames emanated from the muzzle of the gun, and yellow-orange bullets shot out from the inside. The epidemic doctor seems to have expected it a long time ago. Face. Don't panic. Even the movements of his hands are equally smooth and calm. Tread. Tread. Facing the impact of artillery fire all over the sky. The epidemic doctor seemed to be walking in another dimension. These attacks had no effect on him at all. Killed by a gun? Non-existent. Bullets all over the sky shot into the chest of the epidemic doctor, which can kill an elephant's mouth. To him, it seemed like nothing happened. Unbelievably peaceful. On the contrary, the scalpel in the hands of the plague doctor. He didn't know that when he was on the top, he took out a shiny scalpel from the medical bag in his hand. Next, this is the real killing time. Plague, you have the smell of the plague spreading. You must be cured. How can this be? The general of the army stared wide-eyed. Sangwan received unimaginable devastation. That's it. Watching helplessly, the epidemic doctor was facing the hail of bullets, holding the scalpel in his hand, and scratched the battlesuit for the members of the Griffin Special Forces one by one, and then made physical contact, one by one triggered and died. Without exception. Soon, there is a corpse lying on the ground next to the plague doctor. The ancestral stitching skills are once again displayed under the eyes of everyone. The medical kits around him seemed to be endless, and he could take out a new one every time, and then took out 4 bottles of potions of different colors and poured them into the corpse one by one. The fallen corpses during the plague doctor's operation turned into suture monsters with their limbs turned upside down. Then climbed up unsteadily. Seeing the resurrection technology appear in front of his eyes again, the army general, who was full of greed, just now suddenly felt a chill from the bottom of his heart. A chill shot up his spine, and his back was wet with cold sweat. No. Be sure to catch that monster. If he can escape the submachine gun, I don't believe that he can resist the shells. Let all the heavy weapons go there. No matter the cost, we must suppress the opponent and authorize the maximum attack authority. Like a red-eyed gambler, the army general didn't want to leave the table, but instead pushed all the chips in his hands up. Several heavy equipment troops, at least thousands of people, add up to more than 10,000. Coupled with the most advanced weapons and ammunition supply, in more than half of the countries in the world, they are enough to overthrow the power of the regime. He couldn't believe it. A poor medieval doctor could withstand such a shock. However, the fact is, he can only believe. Under the eyes of countless people who couldn't believe it, the epidemic doctor was carrying the gunfire, and the attack was meaningless to him. The plague that is spreading. Epidemic doctors only have patience in their eyes. He took out the scalpel in his hand and waved it casually. Not only the tactical body armor, but even the armor of the tank could be easily cut open. This level of sharpness is outrageous, and the eyeballs of countless people who watched it almost popped out. The defense broke. Next, definitely the hot eye stitches come alive. Have to say, after watching it so many times, netizens felt that their mental pollution had reached the limit, and they adapted inexplicably. Like 880 get used to it by spitting it out. The Twisted Stitch monster doesn't look so disgusting anymore. But for Eagle Sauce at the center of the storm? How can this be? The general's eyes widened. These are the most cutting-edge technologies of the Empire. Eagle Sauce dominates the world, kidnaps the world's financial resources with US dollar bills, and only temporarily arms a few ugly troops. However, that's how the ace troops came, and they were all smashed into the sand and were easily dealt with by the epidemic doctor. There's a mess everywhere. There are pierced brass bullet casings, and there are traces of various shells pouring in. High-rise buildings have been pierced, and the surrounding buildings that are comparable to thick steel plates are pushed away in the aftermath of the battle. Look up and even see the sun in the sky. The beating was so fierce. The epidemic doctor seemed to be okay, and the speed of his actions did not slow down, let alone killed or maimed. He moved forward at the same pace, and the transformed SCP-049-2 around him became more. Heavy weapons. It's just a heavy weapon force. We still have stronger power. Space-based weapons. I don't believe that space-based weapons can't deal with him if they shoot down. The general of the army stared wide-eyed and dressed roughly. Next moment, the space-based weapon aimed at the location is finally launched. Boom! Under the mighty attack, the plague doctor remained unscathed. The surrounding area has become a jeopardy, but it still has no effect on the epidemic doctor. As if the concept of death has disappeared from him. Hole. How can this be? What kind of monster is that? The general's eyes almost popped out. Space-based weapons. Dozens of rounds focus on one point of bombardment. Kilometers of surrounding land were wiped off the face of the earth. The core outbreak attack is even more terrifying than a nuclear bomb. When it hits the plague doctor, he is still alive. Is it an undead monster? There was a look of horror in the eyes of the general of the army. Plague Dr. Angel, you really can't be beaten to death. Lin Xiu looked at the screen and nodded. There is no surprise on the face. The seemingly ordinary epidemic doctor is actually absolutely not common, and his upper limit of personality is absolutely extremely high, especially when it comes to the aspect of immortality. The three brothers who died personally gave him the blessing of eternal life. With the blessing of this boss, how could the epidemic doctor be killed so easily? The dead three who treat the king like a bug. Even if you look at the SCP among the supreme divinities, is a proper sealing role. His blessing. One can imagine. Perhaps there is an unknown existence. Jiqiang the doctor who kills the epidemic. But definitely not these technological weapons. A plague doctor dedicated to solving the plague and purifying the plague definitely cannot be a rookie. In combat performance, it's really average. The combat power usually displayed, that is, the explosive street level, is difficult to count even the city-destroying level. but the vitality of, in other words, immortality. It is definitely an existence beyond imagination, even originally is a distorted concept. If the immortality of the fire lizard comes from 053 supernormality, bestowed by the Death Knight of Apocalypse. So, the eternal life, blessing of the epidemic doctor comes from the supreme God in charge of death in SCP. The metaphysical concept, the end of everything, can even make non-existence originally non-exist. In the entire Marvel universe, there is no one who can kill the plague Dr. Angel. As far as Eagle Sauce's skill level is concerned, do you want to try to kill him with technology, Wooloo? Tisk, at least you have to have the technology in the three-body problem to be eligible to touch porcelain, right? Lin Xiu smacked his lips. He can only say that the ignorant are fearless. Ying Long is a brave man. And as far as the current performance of the epidemic doctor is concerned, the immortality is even more exaggerated than that of the fire lizard, which makes Lin Xiu feel a vague sense of strangeness. Could it be Angel, the epidemic doctor, is also supernormal? Lin Xiu raised his brows slightly and suddenly had a deeper feeling for Ying Zhang's death. But Little Peanut, Mr. 682, and 5 little girls did not explode. Epidemic Dr. Angel should not have any accidents or something, right? It should be, probably perhaps. Lin Xiu rubbed his chin, a little unsure. Although he was a little apprehensive, but looking at the rapidly rising numbers in the exposure value panel, Lin Xiu decided to take a small risk and temporarily put on hold. Let the bullets fly a little longer. Anyway, he has already prepared the means to deal with it. Lin Xiu took a glance from the corner of his eye, looking at the containment troops ready to go and the preparations made in advance, nodding with satisfaction. This wave, steady, pioneer technology building. Under the terrifying firepower bombardment, the original high-rise buildings have been completely destroyed into ruins. All kinds of corpses were lying around. Under the bombardment, experienced American civilians all skillfully hid behind the bunkers. But, however, the firepower of Ying Jiang was too fierce, and it was directly razed to the ground, completely shattered, reduced to scorched earth. But don't be too angry or dissatisfied, because those special forces and violent organizations that wanted to destroy were quickly taught by epidemic doctors to be human. There is regenerative healing factor. Ignore their attacks and rush forward. Knives in hand, one knife at a time. The scalpel was so powerful that it almost made Loki, who was secretly watching the screen, cry. The plague doctor who cleared the plague. In peacetime, there are obviously two gestures. Die, die, die. It was identified by the epidemic doctor as the smell of the plague, and everything related to the plague fell under his scalpel. The messy corpses were all transformed into stitch monsters by his hands. But such an operation does not seem to be 100% successful. Some staggered and stood up, but many more lay directly on the ground. The plague, the breath of the plague, hasn't been completely eliminated. Under the beak mask, his icy voice sounded. I will save you. Looked up, stare straight ahead. Don't come here. F***K. Monster. Get lost. This is an unkillable monster. Run. Help. The remaining remnants of the troops all showed horror after meeting SCP-049's gaze. The whole person was so frightened that their heads were about to drop, even if they are experienced special forces. They are all elite aces selected by the Eagle Sauce military at all levels, but they are still terrified when they meet such an unimaginable monster. Who is not panic? Especially, the terrifying characteristics of SCP-049 are death upon touch. Who can resist this? Even hiding in a thick armored vehicle. Still insecure. Life is like a candle in the wind, as if fate is at stake. Regardless of Shangfeng's urgent telegram, he ran away directly. Countless people around the world witnessed the defeat of Ying Jiang's elite. I almost lost face to Grandma's house. And, is it really useful to simply run away? Plague, spreading plague. The plague doctor wields a scalpel, and the cold beak mask looks even more intrusive. The power of invisible is constantly surging on it. For those people whom he thought were carrying the plague, endless murderous intent erupted, and the other party's attempt to escape seemed to have triggered a certain program in the skinny doctor. The speed of the amateur athletes soared countless times in an instant, turned into a black shadow, straight into the crowd, and Kiri Amber, who was resurrected by him and beaten into a stitch monster, and other monsters also started to attack. The soaring flames directly ignited several armored vehicles. It turned into a large fireball and exploded in the street. Is this really a doctor? Too scary. Just kidding. This is obviously a monster. Everyone is a medical student, and my scalpel is more advanced than yours. Why are you so awesome? Online, watching SCP-049's horrific record, countless people's eyes widened, completely refreshing the definition of a doctor in the worldview. Emotion. Is this a healer that is stronger than the output? And it also works part-time as the undead mage? Seeing SCP-049-1 behind SCP-049 opening its teeth and waving its claws to assist in the attack, the corners of countless people's mouths twitched, feeling a little overwhelmed. Certain doctors with operations. Looking at the knife in his hand, it can only be used for surgery. Can't help but compare it with SCP-049's scalpel that cut through the tank and suddenly attacked the world. Coach, I want to learn this. But beyond shock and the fear that comes with it, it can be said that the Eagle sauce is bad, but it must not be said to serve customers. Unmatched cutting-edge technology. The top armored division troops, coupled with the auxiliary bombardment of space-based weapons, could not cause any damage to SCP-049, and in turn, it held a knife and directly slaughtered the entire army. Except it's not interested in running away successfully. #FT. Those identified by SCP-049 as infected with the plague, one counted as one, all lay on the ground. At least a third of it. The stitch monsters with corpses strewn across the field made countless people swallow their saliva. I'm going to die. Ingjiang can't stand it anymore. What should I do? Plague? What kind of plague is it? He is using the plague as a cover to carry out massacres and cleansing, right? Where's the superhero? Where's the superhero? No one will take care of him. Help. There are monsters here. He has been bewitched and twisted by Satan. Sadness is everywhere on the internet. Most of the IPs of the barrage are basically from Ingjiang. Close. There's a sense of fear. This terrifying monster clearly wanted to have a cleansing and massacre, using the plague as an excuse to cover it up. More than 80% of people agree with this conjecture. The world seems to be shrouded in a thick layer of white horror. In despair. Superhero. A superhero has appeared. Yes, it's Superman. A refined and red barrage flashed across. Like a shooting star in the night sky, it instantly attracted the attention of countless people. Absorbing the yellow light of the sun, Superman, like the incarnation of the sun, once fought side by side with Odin, occupying a place among the strongest combat forces on the surface, and his number of fans is no less than that of the Avengers Alliance. It quickly attracted the attention of countless people. Outside the building, SCP-049 is still relentlessly treated. Tearing air, sound from the sky. Faster than the sound is a streamer of red. Hush! Superman flew in midair, the cloak flapping behind him. It is still a coquettish operation of wearing underwear on the outside. But the color of the battlesuit on his body seems to have changed a little. The normal color scheme has a bit of light green, as if adding a layer of greenery to the surface of the battlesuit, but the color is not obvious. You can only see it carefully when you get close. That's the success of Bruce's efforts. New battlesuit. It can greatly enhance the efficiency of Superman to absorb yellow light from the sun. How does it feel? Clark. Bruce's concerned voice came through Superman's headset. Never been better. Superman responded firmly. He lowered his head and looked down coldly. The epidemic doctor had already killed supergods. Monster, get off the earth. Superman growled under his breath, hot gazes flashing in his eyes. The light energy poured out and greeted the epidemic doctor with a rather violent gesture. Result? The result is definitely nothing happens. The scorching high-temperature rays melted the earth into rock formations like glass, but the epidemic doctor was rich and unharmed. The plague doctor raised his head, looking at Superman through the beak mask. There was a cold look in his eyes. Plague. There are traces of plague in your body. Don't worry. I will definitely cure you. It may be that the energy response on Superman is too strong. The epidemic doctor actually let go of the Ingjiang army that was close at hand and turned around to point the finger at him. Boom. Boom. SCP-049-2, transformed by Killian and several other extremist hosts. Chi-Chi raised his head and breathed fire. 1,000-degree flames roared out, quickly engulfing Superman. After being revived and transformed by the Plague Doctor, the extremists in Killian's body seemed to have become countless times stronger, flames soaring into the sky. Before this, extremists could not do this level. Plague. Whether there's plague in my body, I will solve it myself. No need for you, twisted monster. Superman looked at the distorted corpse with a cold expression. In his eyes, the plague or something is completely an excuse for the Plague Doctor to clean up and slaughter. Another super criminal. With a cold face, Superman labeled the epidemic doctor. The battle suit emits brilliance, absorbing the yellow light of the sun with full power, and a high-efficiency reaction erupts in Superman's body. Like a small sun rising, the terrifying energy even faintly distorts the surrounding space. It seemed impossible to bear his coming. Then, it's a one-sided battle. The scorched earth was completely destroyed by Superman, and all kinds of deep pits were everywhere, and people couldn't help but suspect that the high-rise buildings around the center of the earth were completely destroyed. But the real result? Thunder, little rain. The epidemic doctor was unscathed, and the immortality of his body seemed to have no upper limit, and there was no limit at all. Instead, it was the attack of the Plague Doctor on Superman. Crash! Crash! The battle suit was easily pierced. The battle suit defense is like paper under the scalpel. Several times, he was almost touched by the Plague Doctor, but Superman's reaction speed was fast enough to barely escape. Even he wouldn't bet on whether he would be exempt from SCP-049's instant death properties. It's weirdly tingling. Damn it, Superman didn't roll over, did he? How is that possible? Superman should have the power to destroy the framework of the continent, right? This kind of extraordinary combat power can't deal with the epidemic doctor. This is too outrageous. Isn't it fake? Can Superman be cornered by the epidemic doctor? Is this guy really a doctor? All kinds of bullet screens spewed out on the internet, and the public sentiment surged and climaxed. Extreme situation? It's not that simple. Superman has flight ability. That monster can't fly. Even if Superman can't kill him, don't worry about safety. That monster can't hurt. The barrage that was drawn, goodly how, woke up countless people. Think of that. Apparently, it's not just him. Clark, take to the sky. Bruce's voice came through the headset, and Superman's external brain kicked in. No hesitation. The long-standing trust made Clark choose to follow suit. However, next moment, the astonishing thing happened again. The plague. Never let it go. I can rescue you. The epidemic doctor's firm voice sounded from under the bird's beak mask. As if some kind of inexplicable power was triggered, endless dead air spread over the surrounding corpses, gathering towards the epidemic protection. The energy that was like substance turned into an energy coat and wrapped around him. Next, it was an astounding scene. Boom! The death aura soaring into the sky made the epidemic doctor directly lock up Superman. Flutter. The scalpel blooms. The black shadow rushed over directly. The plague must be cleared away. The epidemic doctor's firm voice sounded. The palm, like the withered root of an old tree, firmly grasped Superman, and the strong dead air was beyond normal strength. Hateful! Get out of here! Superman roared angrily. The sun's yellow light was squeezed to the limit, comparable to a real sun. Two completely different forces erupted into an unreasonable collision. Each an energy response detection device, the highest value, exploded one after another. Then what is that? In the terrifying collision, someone looked up in horror. Son, fusion moves. It was like being pushed out of position by invisible force. And on the surface of the dazzling fireball, an ugly spot also appeared. It's like the sun shattered. Day of war. The day of sorrow. An unimaginable crisis broke out outside the Earth. Everyone thought that this was just a collision between a superhero and a monster. But wait until after looking up at the sky. They found out. They were wrong. And very wrong. Standing proudly in space, the scorching sun constantly blooming with light and heat, a huge fireball with a temperature of tens of millions of degrees. Sudden, there was an accident. It's like being eaten by invisible power. The surface is black, ugly dark spots like scars. And, along with its location, unpredictable offsets have also occurred. Son, Nick Fury's eyes are wide open. The eyeballs are about to pop out. The well-deserved core C position of the solar system. 99% of the living things on the Earth's surface rely on the energy emitted by the sun to survive. If an accident happens to the sun, the chain reaction will be unimaginable for the Earth. It is like a speck of dust in the air, falling on an individual. It is an unbearable weight. I didn't expect to kill the marinated egg. The battle between Superman and SCP-049 can actually affect the sun in space. That's the sun that occupies 99% of the weight of the solar system. It's obviously a battle on the surface. How could it affect its existence? Nick Fury lost his gaze. It was as if the impact was too great, and the head was dried to a standstill. The repeated murmurs at the corner of the mouth seemed to be infected by Mrs. Xianglin. Shocking for sure, but the world needs him to protect it. The turbulence of the sun is definitely an unimaginable impact on the Earth. All bases are activated. Everyone start the rescue mode, open the air defense tunnel, and take the civilians to evacuate. The sub-bases that are dormant and latent are all activated. All actions should be implemented as quickly as possible. Quick! Nick Fury yelled. This is a crisis of the survival of the Earth. Not to mention the damage of the sun. As long as its temperature drops a little, the surface temperature will drop sharply, and it will directly enter the cold winter blockade. The extreme low temperature is enough to annihilate 90% of living things. Others, injection of solar storms, magnetic field turbulence, historical. I don't even bother to mention the messy crisis of annihilation. Anyway, any one of them can drive humanity to extinction. Come a few more, 553 is the same. At most, the death is more thorough. Military. Crazy. All crazy. The army general's eyes were wide open. His head was red, like a cerebral hemorrhage. He can't imagine. SCP-049, which he regarded as something in his pocket, has such terrifying power that it can make Superman helpless. Also because of unknown power, the sun was moved. This This is a disaster that will destroy the world. A trembling voice sounded from the corner of the general's mouth. All kinds of communication sounds rang out in the conference room, all of which were urgent messages for help. Are we still catching that SCP-049? Someone tremblingly pointed at the epidemic doctor on the screen. Turning his head, he met the general's cold gaze. Who is this? How can you be so blind? Oh, it's his nephew. Forget about it. No. Action canceled. The general gritted his voice through his teeth. Catch. Catch with what? Didn't you see that the sun was affected by the battle between Superman and SCP-049, and there was an unpredictable danger? And a special forces all smashed in. More than half of it was wiped out. Even if Ing Jiang wanted to do something, he couldn't gather a stronger army in a short time. This time, they are bloody. The loss of a moment is no less than the disastrous defeat of the Afghans in the Imperial Cemetery. Top, but also face the terrible solar crisis. Send all the troops out to prepare for explosion-proof suppression. The general's eyelids twitched. He could already feel that some rioters were about to riot again. Kamartaj, all official mage, enter the holy place maintenance barrier. Prevent the crisis from spreading further. 3 seats to holy place fully activated. Let the defensive enchantment cover the whole world and stop the out-of-control solar energy impact. Apprentice mage, guard at Kamartaj. Ancient One frowned. Now, definitely the darkest hour on Earth. Coming back from the dark dimension, he ran into this kind of natural disaster just after showing up. The impact of solar energy is only the first ring. Next, and more difficult to deal with, is the offset of the sun's orbit. In the solar system, all celestial bodies revolve around the sun. Once the sun's orbit deviates, it is only a trace that cannot be detected by the naked eye. For the Earth, where rotation and revolution coexist, it is absolutely and unimaginable disaster-free. The position of the Earth must be stabilized. Ancient One is wearing a hood. Most of his face is hidden in the shadows, and his expression cannot be seen clearly. Dormammu was temporarily drained by her, so he should not dare to come out to make trouble. The 3 seats up to Holy Place can all be vacant, but the defensive enchantment recorded inside can only anchor the coordinates of the Earth at most, and it is still a little bit close to stabilizing the position in the turmoil. Important day. More power involved. Ancient One's eyes narrowed slightly, and he had already made a decision in his heart. Asgard, looking for my help to stabilize Midgard's coordinates? Odin raised an eyebrow. That's right. The strong support that Ancient One is looking for is Odin. At the cost of giving up the quota for one person of the Fountain of Youth, Odin is asked to help maintain the stability of the Earth in the turmoil. Okay, I promise. Odin's eyes narrowed slightly. He definitely understood the reason why his lips were dead and his teeth were cold. Not to mention, Ancient One also gave up a spot for immortality. Him, no loss. In fact, even if Ancient One doesn't say anything, it's planning to make a move. The increasingly dangerous situation and the increasingly chaotic future made him, the God King of Asgard, instinctively want to seek an alliance with his companions, and Midgard, which is closer to him, is obviously the best object of alliance. It's not just Ancient One that feels the crisis. So does he give up the power of the Fountain of Youth? Odin frowned. Ancient One's unexpected move made him feel weird. I felt a little uneasy for no reason. But now is not the time to scrutinize. Stabilize the position of the Earth and prevent the orbit from shifting. Odin murmured under his breath. Picking up the gun of eternity with his right hand, the power of Odin in his body poured out, raising the power to the limit regardless of the cost. On the destroyer armor, the magical brilliance of various gods' blessings also lit up, raised the state of Odin to the extreme. Then, the Eternal Lance is aimed at Midgard's position and thrown out. Definitely not to shoot through the Earth. It's stuck at the core. Fixed position, so that the Earth does not deviate outward. We'll be in. The meteor fell to the ground, carrying the strongest power of the oath. Death. That doctor is really not simple. SCP-053. Interesting containment. Seems scary. Dr. Manhattan walks down the street, looking up at the sky. Although it is not far from the place where SCP-049 is located and may be affected by the battlefield at any time, there is no fluctuation on his face, as if he doesn't care about their terror. Even in space, the sun mutation that caused the unpredictable crisis did not shock him. Flat expression. It's as if you're just watching a show. But, do you want to make a move? Dr. Manhattan murmured softly. The completely different universe and the unforeseen development aroused curiosity in his dead heart. The unknown thirst made his stagnant heart unexpectedly turbulent. The plague in the mouth of the plague doctor, and the dead air that permeated his body, and the weird sewing method made him a little curious. He didn't want the world to end like this. With so many unknown worlds, it would be a pity if they were easily destroyed, a guy. His eyes narrowed slightly. Dr. Manhattan just wanted to make a move. Sudden, the expression changed slightly, and a faint smile appeared on the dumb corner. It seems. I don't need to make a move. Another mystery beyond the known. Interesting. It was so much fun. Laughter of heartfelt joy echoed through the streets. Close at hand, but no one could find out. This is destined to be a carnival for him alone. Here we go. Ancient One lowered his head. His eyes became deeper and deeper. The 3 holy places have been activated. The defensive barrier is anchored around the world, and the power of Odin is also transmitted through the eternal gun, stabilizing the last turmoil on the Earth. The Earth is temporarily out of crisis, and she can completely let go of her hands and feet. Zila, the portal opened wide behind her. Ancient One has no hesitation, steps forward and steps in. Future technology building. The high-rise buildings have been completely destroyed in the chaos of war. On the broken, scorched Earth, Superman wrestles with SCP-049. The dead air spread to the sky, and Superman's body was covered by the yellow light of the sun, like a newborn sun. Visible to the naked eye. Superman has fallen into a slump and is being suppressed at a disadvantage. Zila, the flame halo spreads. Ancient One walked out slowly from inside. The glowing green light filled the air, and the power of Eye of Agamotto fully bloomed. Supreme Mage? The strongest mage has shot. Can he take down that monster? Superman can't handle it anymore. Can you? That Supreme Mage. Doesn't she control the power of time? I feel like that monster is simply a monster. Yeah, even the sun is inexplicably affected. I don't know if it was absorbed too much energy by Superman, or it was affected by the special mechanism of the Plague Doctor. In space, the mutation of the sun is an undeniable fact. The originally crowded network became withered because of this incident, and countless people were taken refuge by the organization. Only a few people still stick to the internet. When the sun changed suddenly and was punctured by someone, The confidence that was not very firm at first plummeted in an instant. The power to manipulate time is awesome. The contained objects beyond the rules are obviously more terrifying and weird. And Ancient One in several cataclysms where containment fell. External performance cannot be considered strong. One by one, the weird contained objects are almost rubbing against the ground with time. It doesn't make sense at all. Can save people from their contents. It is already considered the highlight performance of Ancient One. Compared with other helpless forces, Mage's mystery is still stable. But overcome the containment, always feel a little stuck, in the mood of countless people with doubts. Ancient One is finally out, but her shooting style is different from the past, not dominated by Eye of Agamotto. Using the power of Eye of Agamotto to manipulate time. After fluctuating the time a little, while the battle was in a daze, the mirror space was opened directly. Crash. The upside-down world intertwined. It directly brought both Epidemic Doctor and Superman into a special space. Alien space, similar to the world she controls. Although it looks exactly the same as the outside world, any damage caused inside will not spread to the outside world. It can be said that it is an essential skill for fighting. Ancient One deliberately casts spells, as if to avoid the spread of combat medical waves. But isn't the outside already scorched? Nick Fury frowned. I don't understand the significance of the isolation of Ancient One's manufacturing site. It's all in ruins. How bad can it be? Is there any deep meaning? Nick Fury looked at Doctor Strange, trying to get some clues from him who was also mage. However, before Doctor Strange could speak, Nick Fury, who had been staring at the screen from the corner of his eye, suddenly shrank his pupils, and his shocked expression was like seeing a ghost. What's the situation? Horn? Monster? The horrified voice echoed in the meeting room, making it very harsh. The people around, looking at the picture, also became sluggish. Terrifying energy bloomed on Ancient One. After entering the mirror space, she completely let go of the control of power, and the majestic energy poured out like substance. The hood he was wearing was quickly dispersed by the force, revealing the face hidden under the shadow of Ancient One. Horn on the shiny bald head. Two bony-like horn protrusions emerged. There are dark lines all over his face, and he wears a strong, evil aura, which is more terrifying than the things painted on the faces of native Indians. The right eye is covered with a layer of periosteum, and the vertical pupil is very dazzling on Ancient One's face, which is not a shape that humans can have at all. Although the left eye is in the shape of a human being, its color is pure black without any color. Looking at the darkness to the end, it seems to lead straight into the abyss. Gee, what's going on? Nick Fury couldn't help swallowing and looked directly at the appearance of Ancient One, especially the right half of his face, as if seeing the boundless scarlet radiance and countless flesh and blood wriggling inside. It's just like, world? No, it's a universe. A universe made of flesh and blood. I do not know either. Doctor Strange was a little flustered. He never knew Tong. He could look like this. Almost like twisted flesh evil god. It is more terrifying than the gods recorded in the book of Emperor Wei Shan. The indescribable power collided with the dead energy, and the dead energy was faintly suppressed. Adelaide, this is the first time I have seen that the power of the contained object has collapsed in reality. Could it be? The first victory of mankind is about to appear. Human victory. Dawn of desperation. Similar headlines continue to appear on the internet, igniting the blood of countless people, even if it is the sword of Dalmos with the sun out of control on his head. But still can't hide the excitement in people's hearts. Anyway, Ancient One, Humanist Guardian, Earth Dimension Umbrella. These two identities are basically locked, proper Earth people. If she can really suppress the containment, contain it forcibly, or even suppress it, it will definitely be great news for the human beings who have been devastated by the containment. It is worthy of the rejoicing of countless people, different from the strangeness and fear of the Foundation. Guarding the region for hundreds of years, Ancient One of the same kind, countless people have a different sense of identity in their hearts. No way. The Foundation is too mysterious and too unattainable. In comparison, the Ancient One, who was deflated to protect the Earth, is noticeably more approachable. But is Ancient One Mage really okay? Nick Fury frowned. The blood-colored universe that he had glimpsed just now really made Braised a little uneasy. It's just like written in many vulgar TV series. For strength, sink into the temptation of the devil, become a servant of darkness, and so on. Lots of fantasy world stories. It all started with the fall of the mighty mage and kicked off the prelude. Have no idea. Doctor Strange shook his head. He doesn't understand the dark dimension or something. In a hurry, the Ancient One taught him only white magic. Others just lost the book, let him learn by himself slowly. How would he know what is going on? But the Supreme Mage has guarded mankind for hundreds of years. Her heart, we should believe. Doctor Strange spoke solemnly. With a serious look, it is obvious that he also firmly believes in this. Although the contact time is not long, Ancient One's positive image in Doctor Strange's heart is still very stable. But for others, it's the power of the dark dimension. Kaisalia's complexion changed, and he felt very familiar with his tongue. And it was bigger than anything he had ever touched, even already close to the Dormammu that had been glimpsed. Because of his obsession with power, Kaisalius, who was about to fall under Dormammu's pomegranate skirt, instantly widened his eyes. This script is wrong. Aren't you the Supreme Mage? Why is the dark energy so strong? Kaisalius suddenly had a bad feeling. He betrayed mankind and threw himself into darkness. In the end, they switched camps. Is the immediate boss still Ancient One? In a trance, he seemed to see a big bald head and said slowly to him with an indifferent expression, "Are you here? Ancient One doesn't seem to be bald now. With horns on his head? What kind of demon costume is this?" Kaisalius was completely dumbfounded. Pioneer technology building. Nothing will stop me from eradicating the plague. The plague must be purified. I will save you. I save the world. Doctor, under the beak mask, SCP-049's firm voice sounded. After the strong death energy was suppressed by Ancient One, instead of being decadent, he became even more angry and impatient, as if he had been irritated. From the constant waving of the scalpel, it can be clearly seen that the epidemic doctor is anxious, like a spring, constantly compressed downward by gravity. As long as it is not broken, the greater the pressure, the more terrifying the final rebound will be. Not good. The power on that monster is wrong. Ancient One's pupils constricted. I feel a little uneasy inside. Through her half-open right eye, she seemed to be able to see the horror permeating the plague doctor through the blood. There is an invisible force. Under the suppression, they continued to breed and grow wildly. Not only did he not bow his head because of the suppression of divinity in his right eye, on the contrary, the more he oppressed, the more he resisted, and the more terrifying he became. Once it erupts, it will definitely be a shocking existence, infecting the timeline, the horror that even multi-time cannot escape. It looks like some kind of plague. SCP-049? Plague Doctor? Is he the messenger who spread the plague? Ancient One pupil earthquake. This idea came to mind instinctively. But the next moment, she was denied the law again. The attitude of the plague doctor towards eradicating the plague does not seem to be pretending. What could it be? Ancient One frowned. The existing information is too little. It is difficult to come up with any clues. Even if the result is found, there is a high probability that it is a mistake. But no matter what, it can be confirmed that SCP-049 plague medicine and plague are related. The terrifying plague attribute on the opponent. Once it spreads, it will even spread and infect the terror of other dimensions. Absolutely don't let it spread. Ancient One's expression was cold, but his attitude was very firm. Different from the conjectures of braised eggs and others, they used the dark energy of Dormammu to counterbalance the wriggling flesh and blood divinity in the right eye. Ancient One has formed a delicate balance of the two forces in the body, and the consciousness can be completely autonomous without worrying about being manipulated by evil forces. Mindful, stable as an old dog. Dormammu's dark power, although in terms of levels, may not be comparable to the supreme divinity from the Dragon Mother in the right eye. But if the quality is not enough, let the quantity pile up, covering multiple dark dimensions. The energy can be said to be endless, relying on the stars forcibly, suppressing the divine brilliance of the Dragon Mother, and becoming a force that could be leveraged by the Ancient Ten. Divinity radiance bloomed on Ancient One, and one could vaguely see, in the endless darkness, entangled with an ancient god Dragon Mother. Good guy. I'm straight, dude. Lin Xiu blinked unexpectedly. He really didn't expect Ancient One to have such a showy operation. On her, Lin Xiu has also noticed the traces of being infected by divinity and originally wanted to find an opportunity to help Ancient One clean up the pollution as a repayment for her help to the Foundation, overtly or secretly, several times before. Did not expect. Ancient One is so fierce. Squeeze the wool directly to those ancient gods. Mother of Dragons. Nuwa, one of the ancient gods worshipped by Yin Shang civilization. Definitely. He also has a better name. All the both. The Sarkic god Chaos, the tyrant of flesh. Feed on the gods and stars and spit out life. Properly supreme divinity. It is also the veteran supreme in SCP. Dare to use the ray of divine brilliance left by him and use it as your own strength. This kind of courage is really not ordinary. Introduce Dormammu. Let him, a multi-universe powerhouse, collide with the divine brilliance of Aldabas, and then he is responsible for balancing the power in it, maintaining a weak balance, thereby prying the power of both sides. Even Lin Xiu was amazed by this kind of coquettish operation. But, compared with the vigor of Ancient One, Lin Xiu actually admired her good luck even more. Be infected. It is Aldabas, not other divinities, even the supreme divinity, who leaves behind the brilliance of divinity. Otherwise, Ancient One definitely has to play collapse. Put yourself in it. No way. Good luck to her. A half-crippled and dying boss was selected. Thankfully, it's Albertus. Lin Xiu smacked his lips. XXX. Aldaboth is the supreme creator of flesh and chaos. Regardless of style or strength, they all belong to the type of heifer going to heaven. But, because it is too much to die, you have to fight with the broken god who is also the supreme divinity. Although he killed the god of brokenness, he was also taken away by a wave when he was dying, released the silver net, and locked it in a small black room in another world, and directly sealed the lower limit. It can only rely on the infiltration power of some space-time cracks to test the outside world pitifully. This story tells us, don't pretend to be dead, because it is easy to do it, and you will really die. This looks like Ancient One is about to rise, if she can resist the erosion of the supreme divinity. Lin Xiu rubbed his chin with a subtle expression. The supreme divinity of SCPs are all perverts beyond imagination, not to mention being banned from the offline. Even the broken god who was killed until the account was deleted can come out from time to gain a sense of existence. For this kind of common sense beyond the concept, all conventional considerations are meaningless. Duh. Ancient One needs intensive monitoring. When the containment arrives in the future, list all the content related to Ancient One Mage as the key observation objects. Lin Xiu whispered softly and gave instructions to the Foundation members next to him. Friendship is friendship, business is business. In any case, it is related to the supreme divinity, and Lin Xiu definitely cannot turn a blind eye to it. Don't take bean buns as dry food. The supreme divinity that has been beaten and titled is also the terrifying supreme divinity. Just when Lin Xiu ordered things to be carried out. On the broadcast screen, the fierce confrontation is about to reach a climax. Dark mirror space. Boom, boom. The two terrifying forces kept colliding. Next to him has absorbed the yellow light of the sun and has transformed into a small sun, Superman with the power to lift the earth. In this terrifying shock, Zero asks for flowers. I feel like a small boat in the wind and waves, which may be submerged by the waves at any time. The energy tide beyond imagination collides like a substance, and the aftermath of the burst directly destroys a city. And Superman can vaguely feel that there seems to be unimaginable horror hidden in the bodies of Ancient One and SCP-049. Far more terrifying than the power they're showing now. What the hell is that? Superman frowned. The mirror space is independent in another world, and the communicator can't work. Batman can't get in touch with the external brain, and Superman can only try to figure it out on his own. The superbrain is starting. However, before he could think of anything, the battlefield between Ancient One and SCP-049 suddenly changed. Plague. No one can stop me. No one can prevent the elimination of the plague. When the apocalypse comes true, the 4 horsemen of apocalypse descend. I will become the plague, to save the last human beings. Endless dead air rose into the sky above SCP-049, as dead as a substance. Behind him, suddenly condensed into the outline of Tianma. She LV. Invisible's sound waves spread. The power of the epidemic doctor seemed to have become infinitely stronger. The long robe is his knight armor. The scalpel he holds is the knight spear he fights. The beak mask he wears is also a component of the knight helmet. Walking in the chaotic mirror space, SCP-049 appears to be a knight from Legendary. His name? Call it a plague. Boom. A large phantom emerges behind SCP-049. As if from a distant nothingness. Infiltrate the multi-universe. Even if it's just an insignificant breath, it carries an irresistible terror. Collapse. Crumble. Everything seemed to come to an end at this moment. Towards the end of all things returning to ruins. All the known and the unknown are inevitably heading towards the end. Broken. Disappear. Everything that can be seen with the naked eye decays at a rapid rate. And even the entire universe is coming to an end. What exactly is this? Ancient One's eyes widened. The power of the Eye of Agamotto is completely useless in front of this aura of the end. Go back in time anyway. None can resist the coming of the end. Or, this should be called death. Against the death of the entire universe. Absolute. That kind of picture must not be allowed to happen. Ancient One's pupils constricted. The power of the time gem allowed her to see a corner of the future. Perhaps it is self-help from the instinct of the universe. Let time gem burst out of extraordinary power. Let her see a corner of the future. The phantom behind SCP-049 is just a ray of divine radiance, and all the places passing by have ushered in an irreversible death, dying conceptually and then turning into ruins. At last, just a moment, the entire universe has ushered in irreversible death. The Earth died first, and then the 9 realms, the solar system, and the Kree people, spread rapidly to the eternal race, Titan star, until the end of the universe. The entire universe was dead. The concept of death is shrouded, and life completely disappears. Google. It must be stopped. Even Ancient One's throat twitched in shock. The pitch-black eyes were shrouded in infinite firmness. Fine. Still in mirror space. So, what she has to do is to expand the mirror space to infinity and turn it into a huge amounts of net, trying to carry and enclose the ray of brilliance revealed by that unknown existence as much as possible. Don't let that ray of power leak out. Dormammu, I need your strength. Multi-universe master, the incarnation of the dark dimension, the source of dark magic. Her power is absolutely endless. XX. The cooperation process was not pleasant. Dormammu, don't come here. Ancient One, you will sink into darkness forever. After the curse of nothing new, Dormammu, who was restricted by the dimensional invasion, quickly became the blue bottle of Ancient One. The divinity of Dragon Mother allows Ancient One to easily suppress her, to draw strength from her. The dark energy pours out, and the mirror space keeps growing. expanded to a universe like scale, even surpassing the upper limit of observation. Next, countless people witnessed with their own eyes an unforgettable scene: the death of the universe. Brothers, rest assured to follow up, update steadily every day. One less chapter, just wash your hair upside down on the spot. If you have the conditions, you can tap to subscribe automatically. Thank you, Koei. The mirror universe keeps shattering. Under the power of time, gem, activation. Ancient One expands the space very quickly, but the phantom of the gods destroys the universe even faster. Endless planets have fallen into dead silence one after another. It's like the vision that Ancient One foresaw in the time gem. Can't blink. The mirror universe has completely collapsed, fall into endless silence. The star core of the planet has ushered in death, as if the entire universe is in heat death. The terrifying concept of death, even material things, are not exempt. It was just the product of a leak of his breath. Dormammu's power in the dark dimension was almost exhausted. Coupled with the full force of the time gem, he barely resisted the opponent's power until the breath disappeared. Ancient One can feel that he has no malice at all. It's just the impact of high dimensionality on low-dimensional creatures, and the leakage of breath alone will bring countless ants to perish. What the hell is that existence? Ancient One's eyes widened. His complexion changed suddenly, and he felt the breath on him. Vaguely, even more terrifying than the eternal god. As soon as the idea appeared, Ancient One immediately shook his head. Impossible, absolutely impossible. The eternal gods are the 5 great gods of creation, the supreme concept that transcends diversity. How could it be suppressed by an unknown existence? Absolutely impossible. Ancient One murmured and shook his head. However, just when her voice fell, with the departure of the divine brilliance, new content suddenly appeared on the exposure screen on the sky. Black shadows like paper cutouts. For the first time, no real appearance emerged. Like, mortals should not look directly at God. 933-inch, 3 brothers of death / a wisp of divinity. Type, supreme divinity. Death, destruction, death, the supreme God who controls death, the darkness before the creation of the world, the end and death of all things, created the tree of knowledge, all secret paths, and all creations originate from this. Every universe has after the tree is formed, it grows according to the order of the tree. In charge of the primordial fire, created 3 lands of decedent, above the end of all things. The text is smudged on the video like ink. Then, it was a terrifying scene. In a group of 3, a person stepped out and waved gently towards the vast universe. Then, this seemingly incomparably prosperous universe came to an end in an instant. Whether it is the common people, the strong overlord, or the ancient gods born in the creation of the world, they're all shrouded in endless death, and they are completely heading towards the end, death. Multiple worlds, multiple timelines, and multiple force fields collapse and dissipate together, leaving only one wave torrent. When I returned, I met a plague doctor wearing a bird's beak mask, and he gave it eternal life with a simple touch, and turned his back on death. The concept of death will be chosen to leave him. What exactly is he? Looking at the video on the sky screen, Ancient One's inner horror couldn't be described in words. Multiple worlds. The world, which is far larger than the universe they are in, unexpectedly ushered in an irreversible death with just a light wave. The conceptual death caused countless timelines to collapse together. The degree of horror makes people speechless. And the terrifying immortality of the plague doctor is actually just a little bit of him. Hell, this is impossible. There is such a terrifying existence in SCP. Moto Faith's eyes widened. The giant copper bell-like eyes seemed to be on fire. Original, he thought that the Foundation, SCP, was at most an unknown prehistoric force, or the ancient existence of other planets in the universe. But the pictures in the exposure video completely destroyed his self-righteousness. Asgard. Destroy the power of diversity. Odin's pupils shrank, and the gun of eternity was held in his hand, and the bones of his hand were already a little white. Actually, there is such a terrifying power. If it weren't for the sudden explosion of Ancient One and the leakage of the other party's breath, apart from Midgard, the first to suffer is definitely Asgard, and the whole of Jotuan will sink into death. He didn't have the slightest confidence that he could block such a terrifying monster. Could it be? Is he death and legendary? Odin looked horrified. Think of some ancient legendaries that are passed down in the universe. Odin is definitely not talking about Hela, the goddess of death. 2. Above the multiplicity of the universe. Only the concept circulates in the multi-universe, which claims to encompass everything and surpass death above the concept. One of the 5 creation gods. A real god who is more terrifying than the Tenjin group and has countless quilts. These 5 gods only exist among the gods whose concepts are passed on, and it seems that one of them is called death. But the concept spread by the death god seems to be very different from this one. Odin frowned. I have never heard of the death god among the 5 gods, but it is actually composed of a trinity, and he must be too scary. Just stepping out of one person will bring death to the multiverse. That is to say, 1/3 of the opponent's power can easily destroy the multi-universe. If it's all, Odin had a tickle in his throat, a look of awe in his eyes. Unimaginably powerful and terrifying. Is it the real power of the SCP and the Foundation? The pride in Odin's heart completely collapsed. The terrifying unknown. The world is getting more and more interesting. Dr. Manhattan looked up. A rare look of fear appeared in his eyes. Having experienced the restart of the universe, foreseeing countless timelines, and seeing all the parameters of the universe in Manhattan, he thought that nothing could shock him. But, framed from the video, still can't help but be horrified. Above the universe, it is the power beyond concept. Death, Manhattan murmured at the corner of his mouth. A look of apprehension appeared on his face. SCPs are so scary. One can imagine the level of horror of a Foundation that can fight and confront SCPs. So, it's an organization above the universe? The muffled sounds of Manhattan echoed through the streets. Far side of the moon, a secret place that not even the Inhumans know about. Supreme Divinity, 3 brothers of death. How is this possible? There is no such force in the universe. The observers were shocked and angry. The bald little dwarf came out of the moon crater, stood on a deserted rock, looked at the picture in the sky, and his wide eyes were filled with unbelievable light. The power of the mind is blooming because of being too excited, and the cloak behind him is automatic without wind. The entire moon is hovering around the death line. As an observer, he has silently watched the universe for countless years, billions of years, allowing him to witness countless major events. His existence was originally a history book of the level universe. But in this vast age, he'd never heard anything about it. Supreme Divinity? The 3 dead brothers? Fart. The death of the 5 creation gods is not like this at all. The observer frowned. His face was dissatisfied, and he wanted to directly refute and expose his mask. But, glance. Looking at the screen, the mirror universe that fell into heat, death, death. The observer's expression froze suddenly. Words can be faked. Screens can be faked. However, reality cannot be faked. Just on the Earth not far from the moon, the observer can definitely perceive what happens in the mirror space. Hashtag, he also felt a strong threat of death from that breath. As if he came into contact with it personally and was infected by this force, he would inevitably face death. The terrifying concept of death cannot be exempted at all. But that's just a ray of divinity descending. Observers were stunned. Self-proclaimed as an ancient god, he doesn't even pay attention to the gods group, and Uncle Tun is not afraid of him. But he actually bowed his head to a ray of divine aura and felt the threat of death on it, which is definitely enough to obliterate him. What exactly exists? The observer looked horrified, feeling the oppression of transcending dimensions for the first time. He even feels The three Death Brothers are even more terrifying existences than the Death God. Could it be? Above the great god of death, there's an existence that controls the concept of death at a higher level? Foundation. What exactly is it? The observer swallowed, originally thinking that this was just an ancient organization on the planet. Did not expect. The boss who followed the clues is actually so terrifying. Absolutely. Beyond the power of the multi-universe. Universe. Three dead brothers. It's just one of them, and it's just a ray of divinity descending. Can this level be achieved? Collector's eyes widened. Even he, the ancient in the universe, can't understand this power. Real. Could it exist? Collector shook his head, the suspicion in his heart raised to the highest level. Maybe it's just a smoke bomb deliberately produced by an ancient civilization? Die! Die! Thanos' eyes widened, feeling helpless. As the ultimate licking dog of the god of death, no one told him that there are actually two highest concepts of death. There are two goddesses. Which one should I lick? Within the earth. Damn, this is the Foundation. Grunt. Operation canceled. All canceled. God, am I dreaming? Everyone, put down your weapons and stop all attack commands. The look of anger and the voice of fear kept ringing out in the bases of the major organizations on the earth. Even the overlords, emperors, and supreme powerhouses in the universe were frightened and uneasy by the sudden dimensional ascension scene. Not to mention the organization that is still on the small broken ball. Countless people with horror on their faces. All the little signs that had just arisen in my heart were firmly suppressed by them. Foundation terror, far beyond their expectations. Unimaginably powerful, enough to dispel all ambitions. And them, finally shot. Nick Fury stared at the screen with serious eyes. Obviously, I have seen it several times, but when I saw the familiar picture again, I couldn't help swallowing. Foundation arrived. The propeller roared over the scorched earth of the ruins of pioneering technology. Several flight columns suddenly appeared, with powerful fighter performance and excellent concealment. Even Ingjian's most advanced radar detector could not find the slightest trace. It was as if the eyes were dazzled, and a column of fighter jets appeared in the sky. The D-level staff and the special operations team landed from the fighter plane in an orderly manner. The space trembled. The man in the windbreaker came directly to the front of the line. Then, he stretched out his hand towards the place where Ancient One opened the mirror space. Zila unleashed the power to distort reality. It was like opening the door forcibly, breaking a void road leading to the mirror space from the empty air. Without hesitation, the staff stepped in one after another. Dark mirror space. Absorb the power of the dark dimension and forcibly expand the space. The file size, which was originally comparable to the one-to-one reproduction of the universe, has now been destroyed by the divinity of the three dead brothers, and all other places are heat dead, leaving only a small piece of flat land. How did you get in here? Ancient One stared slightly. Someone broke into her mirror space abruptly from the outside world, and Ancient One could definitely perceive it. Surprise appeared on her face. This is her exclusive space, and she broke in so easily? Ancient One frowned. But look at the organizational markings on their overalls, 3 arrows running through them. Ancient One instantly relieved 4.4. It's the Foundation. With the strength of the Foundation, there is no need to be surprised to do anything. Aro, it is surprising that the staff of the Foundation cannot enter the mirror space, right? Ancient One shook his head, with a bit of bitterness in the corner of his mouth. But the staff of the Foundation focused all their attention on SCP-049 in front of them. Be careful. The state of his body is very wrong. Ancient One frowned and took the initiative to remind the Foundation. Although the phantom of the 3 dead brothers disappeared, SCP-049 did not leave. A thick dead air was brewing in him, as if wanting to activate a new form. Even the Ancient One, who had leveraged the brilliance of divinity, felt threatened from him. If you need help, I could do my best. She is also an Asgardian of the Earth dimension and will definitely not sit idly by. The man, the windbreaker, shook his head with a businesslike tone in his tone. Execution. SCP-049 Containment Operation. Brush. Well-trained staff walked out from behind the man in the windbreaker, and under the power of distorting reality, they approached the epidemic doctor. They still held test tubes and containers in their hands, which contained a colorless liquid. Lavender. Ancient One frowned, as if asking about the smell of lavender essence. Originally anxious, not CP-049. After the staff approached, he calmed down instantly. And, very docile, regarding the containment operation of the Foundation, they didn't resist at all and just raised their hands and followed. Compared with the appearance of the crazy doctor before, it's almost like a replacement. How can it be? It's so easy to contain it. Could it be that my eyesight was wrong? Or I didn't wake up? Nick Fury couldn't help but rubbed his eyes. Just as they shook the horrors of the 3 dead brothers and the unfathomable history of the Foundation, the picture on the exposure screen changes suddenly. The well-trained staff of the Foundation dropped off the fighter plane neatly, then crossed into the core battlefield, approached SCP-049, and easily packed him away. A whole set of processes is smooth and flowing, and the speed is astounding, to put outrageously. Nick Fury didn't even find out how they controlled SCP-049. SCP-049, who was so deadly and arrogant just now, and the fierce battle with Superman, caused the sun to undergo unknown changes. How could it be controlled by those D-class members in the blink of an eye? So restless. Destroyed the epidemic doctor of Ingjiang's elite troops. In front of the Foundation, he is as docile as a sheep. Facing the suppression and containment of the personnel, they didn't even resist. They were fixed with a human-shaped restraint belt, and the lock loop was around the neck. Together with the body, they were firmly locked and restrained. It directly became a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. On the left and right, 2 members of the Special Service Combat Team with Gauss rifles acted as guards and monitored. SCP-049 does not resist either. Quietly lowering her head, she followed the footsteps of the Foundation and left. Even those SCP-049-1 resurrected by sutures followed very docilely without a stab, driving them forward. It's just like herding sheep. Military. Shit. What the hell did they do? How can this be? The general's eyes widened. They understand how powerful the Foundation is. But to be strong, you have to pay attention to a basic law, right? Why did SCP-049, who was killing frenziedly in front of the Eagle Sauce, become as docile as a sheep after being in front of the Foundation? This unscientific. The general's eyes almost popped out. It's magical. Ancient One pursed her lips. Her face was covered by large black lines 06. It was difficult for outsiders to understand her emotions. Does lavender have a special restraint effect on SCP-049? Ancient One paused slightly. It is different from other people's guesses across the screen. She is close at hand and can clearly smell the scent of lavender. It is not easy to understand that the scent of flowers can make SCP-049 surrender, but it is easy to accept the scent of lavender as a key point to trigger certain magical rituals. After all, tongue has long been used to the strange, triggering rituals in various dimensional magics. The reason why occultism is mysterious is because there are very few people who control them. Easy containment of SCP-049. It made countless people's eyes widen, and all kinds of remarks filled the hot searches on the internet. Everyone is racking their brains, guessing what the Foundation has done, right in the middle of countless storms. Becoming the protagonist of countless people's guesses, Lin Xiu didn't care about the heat. Anyway, the more you talk about it, the better it is for him. Made money. The corners of Lin Xiu's mouth were slightly raised, with a smile on his face. On the system panel, the ever-increasing exposure value makes people feel happy. The more people know about it, the more people are shocked, and the feedback of exposure value will be stronger. Especially this time. The unexpected appearance of the 3 dead brothers brought the incident to a climax. destroying the horror scene of the entire universe. Even if it was just a mirror universe, the things contained in it were enough to make countless people feel astonished. Indeed, many top powerhouses in the universe are in a state of doubt. But, even to this degree, it can also contribute a lot of exposure value. Looking at the ever-increasing numbers and the lit icons on the panel, you can roughly see how much Lin Xiu has gained this time. Even if he didn't bring SCP-049 back, he won't lose money this time. The epidemic Dr. Angel is really my lucky star. The corners of Lin Xiu's mouth twitched slightly. Looking at SCP-049 brought back by the staff, the joy in my heart became more real. Almost at the same time as he was staring at the epidemic doctor. Ding! The crisp system beep finally came to mind. SCP-049 containment successful. Rewards are being distributed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a controllable version of SCP-049. It's settled. Lin Xiu's eyes moved slightly, and he turned his head to look at the system panel that popped up. Controllable version of SCP-049 Epidemic Doctor. A doctor dedicated to eradicating the plague, who is good at surgery. SCP will be hostile to human individuals that he believes to be affected by the plague. SCP-049 can stop all physiological functions of organisms through direct skin contact. For dead individuals, SCP-049 will usually take out the black medical bag it carries with it and use the instruments inside to perform rough surgery. The success rate is not 100%. Resurrected individuals will obey SCP-049 orders. Owner Lin Xiu can control it under normal conditions. When the breath of the plague is cleaned and the power exceeds the upper limit, there is a probability of ushering in the gaze of Galway and entering a special form. Note, after the high-dimensional projection comes, SCP-049 will be out of control. Please use it carefully. Apocalypse 4 Horsemen, there is a fifth one. Isn't it normal? It really is a plague. Lin Xiu's eyes moved slightly. From the time when SCP-049 and Ancient One confronted each other just now, when it transformed into a special night posture, Lin Xiu guessed some clues. The Green Horse Spear isn't that the Plague Knight among the 4 horsemen of Apocalypse. Now, from the panel narration, it can almost be hammered. SCP-049 Plague Doctor. Is the plague mentioned in the conversation between God and Joker Barber in Eschatology? That is, the 5th of the 4 horsemen of Apocalypse, the Plague Knight. So, what is the plague you want to eradicate? Lin Xiu raised his eyebrows. There's a bit of curiosity on the face. I'm the source of the plague. I also prevent the birth of the plague. I will save the end. SCP-049's firm voice sounded, and under Lin Xiu's complete control, the epidemic doctor spoke the answer. It's the content. Obscure as ever. Lin Xiu tried to continue to ask in depth, but the answers he got were basically the same. Can only say, psychopaths have broad minds. The thinking mode of SCP-049 obviously has a generation gap with normal people. In a vague content, Lin Xiu can only confirm that the supernormal SCP-049 is indeed a plague knight, but what SCP-049 usually does is to prevent the spread of the plague and eliminate the traces of the plague. I kill myself? It makes sense. Very reasonable. Ding. The containment of SCP-049 is complete. Do you want to start drawing the 10th contained item 4? Exposure and arrival? Yes, apricot. Just when Lin Xiu asked D-Class personnel to put SCP-049 into a separate room for containment. The system beep sounds again. It is a familiar formula and a familiar taste. Casual and casual. In the streamer, the content that jumped out made Lin Xiu's eyes fixed. It's actually her? Lin Xiu's gaze narrowed slightly, and he barely looked away from the light and shadow. This time, the contents he drew were a bit beyond his expectations. It's going to be a hell of a problem. If it is not handled properly, there may be unpredictable future wishes. Choose where to put it. Lin Xiu whispered softly. From the phantom of the open map, according to the origin of the contained object, I found a barely suitable place for her. Pioneer Technology Building. The surroundings have been smashed into scorched earth ruins. Because a ray of divinity came from the three dead brothers, Ancient One couldn't even go back in time. These innocent people can only be allowed to die tragically. In the center of Yingjiang's empire, another piece of scorched earth 30 kilometers away from Fengyuan appeared. And because of the intrusion of unknown forces, in this land, the vitality has been completely wiped out, and it will be scorched for at least a few hundred years. Call out. Call out. Clark, are you okay? Bruce, who turned into Batman, rushed over quickly, showing concern in the small half of his face. The Flash is right next to him. Keeping up with the extreme speed of the Batmobile is just a small matter for the Flash. Good. No big deal. Superman shook his head, his blank eyes coming into focus. He glanced around the field. It's a pity that Ancient One has already left through the portal. So if I want to thank you, it seems that I have to do it next time. Thanks to your new battle suit. Superman had a grateful face, and there was a bit of fear in his eyes that hadn't dissipated. SCP-049 is just insane. If it weren't for the new battle suit developed by Batman, which greatly enhanced his absorption and utilization of the sun's yellow light, it would be difficult for him to survive the battle until the Ancient One appeared. But cost? Superman raised his head and looked at the obvious dark spots on the sun, with a serious expression on his face. Could it be that I extracted too much yellow light from the sun? Superman frowned into the word Chuan, feeling a little self-blame in his heart. You're fine. That monster, didn't it affect your body? Bruce frowned, reached out to touch Superman's body, and used the tester that came with the battlesuit to give Superman a basic full-body test first, and the action was a little eager. Exclamation point. Superman patted his chest. He was very informative about his powers. Hey, buddy, I don't think this is a good place to chat. The Flash scratched his head. Point to the screen above the sky. And that damn thing seems to be starting again. In the dimly lit screen, the countdown clock starts to turn again, which means that a new storm will start again. Superman and Bruce frowned. Compared to other side details, abnormality comes, but that is the most important thing. Countdown to exposure of the 10th contained object, 1752. SHIELD. Is it the 10th item? Nick Fury frowned, with a dignified expression. Containment. It's all about distorting reality, and it's all right for anyone. The world is in turmoil of terror. Cause global, even level universe contention. 2. Such a monster. Fast forward to the 10th coming. Nick Fury pinched the center of his brows, forced himself to calm down, and calmed down his mood. Now, far from being the time to slack off. No matter what, the Earth still needs to be maintained, and people don't want to survive. Sun mutation. How's it going? Nick Fury looked up at Phil Coulson next to him. Currently, it is still under control. 583. The Mage of Kamartaj resisted the impact of particles with a magic barrier, and the God King of Asgard stabilized the orbit of the Earth with the Spear of Eternity. Everything is getting on the right track one after another. According to the analysis of the doctors, it only takes a period of time to adapt, and the Earth can adapt to the storm. This time, the Son of the Sun can be regarded as a speed. Pass. Phil Coulson held a large pile of file folders and reported in a systematic manner. As for Sunshine, it is the official name defined for this sun mutation. Fortunately, there are magic and gods to take action. Only when the situation is stabilized will they have time to mend it. Time. What we lack the most is time. Nick Fury sighed quietly. The Dark One, I looked at the constantly jumping clock. Countdown. 9 hours and 23 minutes. Asgard. The strength of Ancient One. Odin frowned tightly. In this battle, except for the glimpse of the supreme divinity, the pride of the Protoss in Odin's heart was completely destroyed. The terrifying strength of Ancient One also caused huge amounts of shock to him. Totally unexpected. Ancient One, it has become so strong. To know. Previously, he was only afraid of Ancient One's time gem. Ancient One's real hard power is definitely below him. After owning the Fountain of Youth and breaking the limit. I should be able to finally overwhelm her. But the power displayed in the battle of Ancient One. Horrible evil. Indescribable divine brilliance. Ancient One. The speed at which she becomes stronger is too fast. Odin shook his head, his expression becoming more serious. Next, he must find an opportunity to become stronger from the next containment as soon as possible. Soon. Odin half closed his eyes, trying to calm himself down. Countdown. 5 hours and 8 minutes. Mutant Academy. In this wave of the times, we mutants need more force. Professor X spoke loudly. Serious gaze. He looked at Sheen beside him. If the Phoenix Force in her body is activated and used normally, it will definitely become the calendar area of the mutant wrist. It is also mutant, going to the world stage, an indispensable force. We are too weak. Professor X shook his head. Compared to those monsters, mutant is really nothing. It must be done as soon as possible. Time is running out. Professor X looked up at the sky. No one knew what the next contained object would be. In a precarious world, no one dares to bet their hopes on the future. The screen slowly lights up. What appeared on the screen was a beautiful girl. The snow-white skin is as smooth as milk, and you can feel the silkiness through the screen. It can be broken by blowing bombs, and it is as delicate as oriental silk. Appears to be an adolescent female human of European descent, but has hoofed animal features, with antlers, hooves, and short tail characteristics, somewhat like a reindeer niece. But hey, compare with these special things on the outside. What made countless people stare out their eyes? It was the clothes on her body, wearing nothing. It is the costume of the succubus girl Gia. Like a pure white and flawless flower, all the buds are exposed. The long golden hair, like the color of the sun, fell down on her body like a waterfall, forming the only shield for the succubus girl Gia. It seems to cover the important parts, but in fact, it's better not to cover anything. The temptation of half hugging the pipa and half covering the face will only make people's heart ready to move, making it even more unbearable. It's just like there was a small flame burning. SCP-166 has a special body. Even the softest clothing will cause her skin ulcers within 45 minutes after wearing it. So SCP-166 does not need to wear clothing for health reasons. Exposure video. The appropriate interpretation of the subtitles instantly triggered a storm of depression. This is too harsh, no? Is it too perverted? There is such a containment. Quick, let me go. I want to destroy her on behalf of the motherland. Sacrifice for justice. Don't pity me. I heard the abacus upstairs in Aojo. I heard it all in Eagle Sauce. I heard it in Mount Bear. Soon, the bustling formation appeared on the internet. The bullet screens all neatly formed a row, and various place names appeared frequently on the internet. The succubus girl Gia, her special form that appears. Many people have let go of their worries, especially many ISPs who fell in minutes. Appearance is justice, not just talk. DR, the succubus girl Gia is still so innocent. Give out benefits as soon as you come up. Surely you won't be a bad person. A fat man typed a paragraph on the keyboard. It resonated with countless people in an instant, and after a bunch of likes, it was directly pushed to the top of the popularity list. But this is what the common people think. For the leaders of the top forces who hold great power, as well as the powerful superheroes, they will definitely not be so superficial. pretty, or something. They have seen so much. Absolutely not to be taken lightly. Nick Fury slapped the table. In the conference room, the same words have been said many times, so that other people have an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Phil Coulson scratched his head. The director is really not the usual long-winded. He is almost catching up with himself. Military, men with strong blood and vigor, have the weakest resistance to this aspect. The sound of heavy breathing soon sounded in the war room. The surrounding air became inexplicably hot, and the temperature suddenly rose, making it a little stuffy. Snort. The army generals patted the table unhappily. They are all fools who are dazzled by beauty. If it is not for the shortage of manpower, he must cut troops and clean up. If you can't calm down, you can go out and calm down. The army general's cold eyes swept across the audience, and the temperature in the space instantly dropped, and no one dared to look up. In front of the screen, the melon eaters reacted fiercely. Expose what's in your video. It also opens slowly downwards. SCP-166 has a special ability to suppress male humans. When seeing her, 100% of the male test subject became obsessed with her and tried to have sexual contact with her, regardless of their original sexual orientation. After leaving the influence of SCP-166, 70% of the test subject's special impulse will disappear, but for the other 30%, this impulse will become a dangerous, compulsive symptom. They will not hesitate to resort to violent means to contact SCP-166. Even through clear memory, it is only effective in 43% of the cases, and the rest of the victims can only be executed. SCP-166, who lived in a monastery since childhood, according to the nun, was sent here by a person with no special features, claiming to be a descendant of an ancient creature with great power. However, attempts to find her mother, without exception, have all failed and become the unsolved mystery of SCP-166. Tick, tick. The text tapped and fell on the screen. The large series of subtitles that appear, taken together, are saying one thing. Succubus, like the succubus in Legendary. However, the effect is infinitely stronger. Everyone who saw her would fall in love with her unreasonably and become her captive. In a sense, for male noble phantasms, beauty, this time of containment, is so simple. Odin frowned. The last mentioned mysterious ancient creature, although a little dreadful, has not been confirmed. Capturing male charm? Odin stared slightly, feeling that things were not that simple. It has always been a twisted rule, a containment that is above the world, but this time it is so simple. It looks like a human-demon hybrid. Beauty only. For the real strong, it is not worth mentioning at all. Is it really easy this time? Odin murmured softly. Asgard's aesthetics are different from Midgard's. Anyway, he has a high resistance to these, including Thor and Loki. Odin has faith in them all. Asgard has not heard of anyone who is addicted to beauty, delaying Yin Yang's precedent. Stark Industrial Building. The charm that fascinates all men. Pepper frowned and looked suspiciously at someone beside him. Hey. Little Pepper, what's the matter with your suspicious eyes? Listen to me. I've changed completely, and I'm now the Iron Man who saves the world. Tony frowned so much that he jumped up. Putting down the mechanical repair in his hand, he turned to look at Zaijiali. I think you should know for yourself. Little Pepper frowned. You should have just come back from the bar last night. My Mr. Iron Man, your suit is still stained with the aroma of the reception. Oh, listen to me. It's just a new era of industrial development in the friendship of science and technology. Tony still wanted to quibble, but he looked at Pepper more and more seriously. He finally stretched out his hand and made a gesture of surrender. Okay, my little Pepper, this time it's the containment, so I won't touch it. Use the mecha, let the mecha troops attack, and deal with it. A succubus in Legendary. Maybe even some demon spells. Mecha troops are enough to deal with it. Tony spoke confidently. The autonomous combat mech he designed has been developed to the Ultron 3 type with the assistance of the completion program. The brand new mecha of the third generation is absolutely terrifying beyond imagination. This time, it just so happened to be the perfect opportunity to make an appearance. To everyone, declare once again that what he said about the mechanical era is correct. Well, you may not have a chance this time. Just when Tony was feeling overwhelmed and impassioned, little Chili poured a pot of cold water down. On the pretty face, with a mocking expression, her outstretched hand pointed directly at the video screen. New content. Tony's eyes were fixed. He didn't care about Zaijiali's teasing and looked over with straight eyebrows. Around SCP-166, man-made objects will gradually return to their unprocessed state. More complex objects, such as electronic products and vehicles, will be affected more quickly. The more sophisticated the material, the greater the impact, and the degradation of metal components will occur within a few hours causing catastrophic structural failure, such as items made using basic materials, such as stone buildings and organic material products. The rate of decay is almost imperceptible, and within the same range, plants will begin to sprout and grow wildly. The people in front of the screen, they just realized the place where the succubus girl Gia is located is just an ordinary stone house, which is completely different from the location where other humanoid containments appear. Original thought this was SCP-160 SIXS style. Now it seems it is most likely because of her passive diffusion, allowing man-made objects to return to their original impact. There is still such a containment. Tony frowned. He didn't care if he was pretty or not. With his status, all kinds of beauties are the kind that are sent into his arms. Tony never cares about the appearance of women, and it is impossible for anyone who can walk to him to be bad. What he is afraid of is the technology is invalidated. Passively restoring man-made objects to their unprocessed state is simply a godsend for precision mecha components. Shit, this is too targeted. Tony frowned unhappily, seeing this posture. This time the containment came. He was completely unable to intervene. Most control the situation on the periphery, playing corner handyman. The expression on Tony's face was a little dark. The same black face, definitely not only Tony, but also the rogues of the Security Council composed of major countries. Technological weapons regress back to the original point. The restraint against them is definitely the greatest. The original machinery, heavy artillery, missiles, and even various high-tech technologies can only be laid aside. These things didn't play a big role in the arrival of the contained objects before, but the characteristic of SCP-166 is undoubtedly to completely extinguish the little flame in their hearts. Could it be that you can only watch? The top management of Ingjiang was not reconciled. No matter what, it is also a humanoid container. Moreover, SCP-166 seems to have the ability to communicate. It would be a pity to give it up directly. Compared with the greed of the high-level Eagle Sauce, Nick Fury is obviously much more reliable. Rather than benefiting from it, Braised Egg cares more about the impact of SCP-166 on humans. Besides, how to suppress, contain, and even solve her. It can make the surrounding artificial creations return to their original state. Melee firearms have a high probability of being ineffective against her. So, remote. What about cloud bombs or even space-based weapons? There is a murderous intent in Nick Fury's one eye. SHIELD. Because of organizational characteristics, it is difficult for them to hold ultimate weapons such as nuclear bombs. But they never lack other powerful weapons. Gritting your teeth, you can take out cloud bombs, thermobaric bombs, including space-based weapons. Different from the greedy Eagle Sauce. Nick Fury, more used to playing it safe, try to kill danger in Cradle King. But if SCP-166 is forcibly killed, looking at a line of words on the exposure screen, Nick Fury frowned. Suspected. Some ancient, mysterious, son of a creature. What if something more terrifying exists? The three dead brothers standing behind the SCP-049 epidemic doctor scared the hearts of countless people. An array of divinity could usher in the heat death of the universe and death. Forcefully kill SCP-166. What if another big guy is released? TJ, be careful. With a constipated expression on his face, Liu Dan gritted his teeth and removed his finger from the launch button of the space-based weapon. Let's see if there is any other way to contain it. If it doesn't work, then consider using space-based weapons to focus on destruction. Chien's, just when the marinated egg was anxious. Canopy. The ever-changing video screen finally came to the end and went to a freeze frame. Ding! The 10th containment item SCP-166 Succubus Girl Gia. Arrival. At the same time, somewhere in Eagle Sauce Country, outside a simple and majestic, large-scale cathedral. Sudden, a young and beautiful blonde girl appeared. Psalms came faintly from the church. The sun shines on her body, and the light-colored fluff seems to be plated with pure gold. The blonde girl is set off like an angel descending to earth, full of indescribable holiness. However, when a male stared at her body, boom! First, the eyes brighten up and emit light like a high-power light bulb. Then, heavy breathing, flushed face, congested head, numb body, boiling blood. The responses have been mixed, but, without exception, it's all utter obsession. "151. In an instant, he became the girl's slave, and his heart was completely captured. SCP-166 has arrived. Bang, rumbling, clang. All kinds of natural disasters and man-made disasters exploded one after another in the surrounding area. Because of obsession with the appearance of SCP-166, some people lost their minds while driving and directly hit the rear end of the car they met. The car hit in front doesn't mind either. Walking down from the parking space, he looked at SCP-166 obsessively and was obviously completely captured. Countless men have become her captives one after another. All kinds of equipment creations, visible to the naked eye, return to the original, turning into ugly iron sheets. In the crowd, a tall man stands out, like a doctor with a nameplate on his chest. Bruce Banner. Military internal prison. Banner. Damn it, why is that guy there too? Ross' pupils shrunk. Although he's been locked in prison, Ross's understanding of the outside world has never been cut off. Light curtain projection overwhelming. As long as you want to see, there is no concept of invisible. Looking up at the sky, even in the bottom of the abyss, you can get relevant exposure video content from the concept to sky, just like blind people can see these content. And it is regarded by countless people as one of the SCPs beyond the concept. Damn it, I want to meet the general. Quick, open the communication for me. Ross' eyes widened, and the moment he saw Banner, chills rushed up his spine. That rascal, definitely a monster beyond imagination. I haven't had much contact with Banner, but a few collisions are enough for Ross to know that there is a terrifying monster inside Banner. Definitely no less than any superhero monster. And the most important is, Hulk's attributes are hard to define, but Banner, he's a real human male. He was also successfully charmed. So fast, Nick Fury's pupils shrank. As for the Green Titan Banner's information, SHILD definitely has archives inside, and Marinated even thought about inviting him to join the Avengers Alliance. However, because Banner's whereabouts were not found, it was temporarily stranded. He's actually here, and still successfully charmed by SCP-166. Nick Fury's expression changed suddenly. He suddenly felt that he should re-examine the charm of SCP-166. For human males, the effect is too domineering. But urgent. I still have to find a way first to control the Green Titan who is charmed by SCP-156. Once an angry gesture appears, The damage caused is no less than a small war cleansing the ground. Let the female agent pass by, and the male superheroes are all suspended, under the premise of not disturbing the green titan in his body. First control Banner and bring it back. Then try to contain and subdue SCP-166. Firearms are easy to break, and it is better to choose an agent who is proficient in melee combat. Nick Fury calls the shots. The reaction speed is quite fast, and the deployment of his subordinates was arranged almost immediately. 2. It's still too late. Boss, I think we need to change 373 ways. Phil Coulson looked at the screen with a stiff expression and pointed to the picture in the video. What? Nick Fury's expression was a little stiff, and there was a bad feeling in his heart. Turned. The bad feeling in my heart was fully implemented. Thor. I don't know when it actually descended on the battlefield. In the background behind him was an open portal, most likely Doctor Strange's method. The stewed eggs can only be thankful. Only Thor came out of the portal. Doctor Strange was still watching and did not end rashly. Otherwise, they would have to face the combination of Thor and Mage. Really lucky fart. With a dark face, Nick Fury slapped the desk directly. Thor's entry made the whole thing start to develop in an uncontrollable direction. His strength. Looking at the Avengers Alliance, it is a well-deserved top 3. And to choose a woman who can overwhelm him? Absolutely not. Braised eggs, everyone is numb. Boom. The thunder that smashed the sky and covered the earth landed. Thor wears the Thor armor and appears in an extremely domineering posture. Succubus girl Gia? Let me, Thor, arrest you myself. Thor looked arrogant. He is a born warrior. It is absolutely impossible to bow his head because of beauty. Thor, full of confidence, rushed up directly. Then, at a faster speed, GG was played. Almost at the moment Thor saw SCP-166, his movements froze for a moment. The forward steps froze in midair. It lasted for an insignificant second. Original. Thor charged towards SCP-166 aggressively, threatening to suppress her. Reddish eyes, breathing heavily, brain congested. Unexpectedly, he was suddenly captured by the charm of SCP-166 and became a captive of her beauty. She's so innocent, so beautiful, so holy. I am Thor. No one will allow anyone to harm her. Thor blushed. The corner of the mouth murmured in a low voice, and blurred eyes appeared in his eyes. It was as if he regarded SCP-166 as the girl in his heart, and the heavy panting sound was the most instinctive biological impulse towards her. How can this be? Odin's eyeballs nearly popped out. Just now, he himself swears by it. The Asgard Protoss are extremely brave races, and they will never be tempted by beauty. Result: in less than a blink of an eye, Thor was charmed by SCP-166 and dazzled by instinct. No, something is wrong. Odin's eyes were cold. He knew Thor's character. To put it bluntly, he was a muscular fool. He didn't have much concept of women in his head. FFLX. The influence of this containment is not superficial beauty at all. Her charm is the power zone of a dry concept. Odin's pupils shrunk. The God King, who had experienced many battles, quickly guessed the clue. Bifrost stretched beneath his feet. Odin grimaced and was just about to go to Midgard and get Thor back himself. However, just as he stepped out, Odin suddenly paused when he saw SCP-166 in the picture. He thinks, it doesn't seem so safe to end in person. The characteristics of the contained objects are really terrifying. They are all existences beyond the rules. Who? knows if he can resist this kind of influence. Odin, whose inner pride is almost smoothed out, couldn't help hesitating. Step back. Quietly, Mimi returned to the throne. With a wave of his right hand, the spear of eternity hurled itself toward Midgard. Let his power of Odin be blessed on the spear of eternity and hit a full blow. So, should be enough? Odin murmured at the corner of his mouth, with a somewhat uncertain expression on his face. This is close to his full blow. It should be more than enough to deal with a succubus girl. Instantly, Meteor fell to the ground. The eternal lance pierced through the 9 realms and came to Midgard with the terrifying power of Odin. Eyes locked on SCP-166, try and kill her. No, Thor yelled. Thor, who has been completely charmed by SCP-166, absolutely cannot accept the goddess in his heart being hurt. Lightning flashes. The terrifying power of thunder burst out on Thor. It spread around like a spiderweb. The electromagnetic gravitational force attracts countless vehicles on the ground into the air. Facing Odin's attack and throw, Thor revealed an unprecedented reality. However, your dad is your dad after all. Odin's God King position is obviously not blown out. Odin, who was shot with real knives and real guns, is not something Thor can touch porcelain at all without his aging body holding him back. The barrel of the gun makes contact with the hammer. Not long, Thor fell into a slump. On the body of the gun, the rune words were shining brightly, and the power shot out, and Thor was directly sent flying. The dreadful power of Odin swallows on the lance of eternity. With unstoppable force, it penetrates towards SCP-166. However, the flower protector of the succubus girl Gia is obviously not just the hammer god Thor. Hulk smash, Hulk attack, a savage roar sounded from below, like a terrifying prehistoric beast. Banner, who was a burly man in the last second. Next second, it turned directly into a green-skinned Hulk. Green Titan barbaric debut. It turns out, after Banner was affected by SCP-166, even if he entered the Hulk posture, he still couldn't resist the charm. Put your guns away. The roar of the Green Titan came from below. Bend your knees and press down. Then the whole person rose into the sky like a green arrow. With its astonishing jumping ability, the Green Titan leaped hundreds of meters in an instant, abruptly intercepting the attack of the Eternal Spear. There is also an invisible force emanating from SCP-166. The lines of light on the Spear of Eternity are still blurred, and the various enchantments and alchemy on it seem to be gradually erased. Get out. The greater the anger, the greater the power. Crazy Green Titan with terrifying powers. Even Odin's attack. There is no way to cause a devastating attack on him. With the power of infinite iterations and explosive growth, as the Green Titan's arm continued to expand, he finally touched the gun of eternity abruptly in his hand. No matter how brilliant the rune words were, he couldn't break free from his power. God King Odin once again fell on the earth. My God, what the hell is that monster? God King Odin lost again. Isn't it outrageous? We still have such a terrifying superhero on Earth. The comments on the internet exploded in an instant. Although Odin has been deflated again and again, he is still a God King, and the power of the broken star is already very terrifying. Just roll over in front of the containment. It was really shocking to be defeated by an unknown strongman. No, more than Green Titan power. Nick Fury fixed his eyes, observed him carefully, and found out more than anyone else. Gun of Eternity. The lines on the gun body seem to have become a lot blurred. Kill demon? Break the law? The Green Titan has never shown such power. According to the information collected by the military and SHIELD, the strength of the Green Titan is mostly in the dimension of power. Could it be SCP-166? Nick Fury frowned slightly, looking at the video screen solemnly. Definitely the containment. Odin's face was black, and he spoke firmly. He could clearly feel that the various magic lines engraved on the Eternal Spear, as well as the stars, were fading. From the gun that nails everything, the gun of miracles to the metal degeneration of the common. It's just like being invisible. With the strength, he forcibly retreated and returned to the original state. Magic is also within its scope of influence. Odin's pupils shrunk, stunned, and speechless. That's right, SCP-166 gradually restores the surrounding objects to their original effects. Not just for technology, even a magic power attached to the weapon is also a kind of man-made processing. It is also within the scope of restoring the original. My Kunganir, Odin's pupils shrank. The gun of eternity that had just been bitten into pits by SCP-682 soon ushered in the restoration of SCP-166's power and was already moving towards the golden. The form is approaching. Pocket space. TSK. The integrated version is different. Lin Xiu couldn't help but smacked his lips. Even he was a little surprised by the special situation of SCP-166. A combination of old and new. The name of SCP-166 in the two postures has also become the integrated succubus girl Gia. Charms male humans and restores artifacts to raw. Two abilities can be integrated in one panel at the same time. And the effect of the latter has also become countless times stronger. Original. Artifacts can only be returned to their raw state within a 15-meter radius around SCP-166. However, now this influence has been erased and limited in scope and will continue to spread over time. Just started, maybe only 15 categories. However, with the passage of time, this effect has been expanded 100 times. On the battlefield, a circle of several kilometers has been formed. All the technological products inside have decayed, and various vines have broken through the ground from the corners. Gun of Eternity, it can no longer be called a gun. There is only a rough stick left, and it won't be long before it can completely transform back to a metal shape. Countless people gasped. In the age of science and technology, under the influence of SCP-166 in the blink of an eye, we have gone back to the Stone Age. SCP-160's IXS effects were left unchecked to expand. It won't be long. The Industrial Age, which humans have spent hundreds of years evolving, is about to be regressed back to the primitive wilderness. Moreover, the characteristics of the succubus girl Gia directly ignore the male superhero, and the more they come, it just strengthens her combat power and increases her flower guardians. Now, it's our mutant turn to save the world. Professor X's exciting voice sounded. Mutant is held back for so long. It's finally their turn to step onto the stage of the times. Don't worry. Leave it to us. Chin-huffing thug girl patted her chest confidently. Good. Professor X looked at Chin, who was tired but had unusually bright eyes, and his confidence instantly increased. And they're not the only ones fighting this time. Monster, look here. The cold voice of arrogant humming sounded on the field, breaking the silence on the field. Scarlet radiance blooms. It illuminated the faces of countless men on the field. Let their flushed faces become more bright red, as if they were about to bleed. Under the crimson power that distorts reality, Wanda rushed to the battlefield with a vast origin magic power surging in both hands. Capture the thief first and capture the king. She is female, so she will not be affected by SCP-160's IXS power. Origin magic power erupted, gathered on SCP-166, and headed towards her to suppress it. Kala finally caught up. Nick Fury breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Braised Eggs has a flexible mind and thought of Scarlet Witch Wanda in time. In pursuit of SCP-096 Shyman, Wanda Awakening, the burst of crimson power refreshed the three views of countless people and made the name of Scarlet Witch completely circulated in the lists of major organizations. But, in the end, the PY ability of the marinated egg is awesome. Relying on the excellent deception ability, he forcibly recruited Scarlet Witch into an extra combat force of H-Shield. Shock Team is not on Earth. On Earth's female Ultramile, It's hard to find a strong match for Thor. But Wanda is different. The terrifying power of origin magic power. Even the Ancient One must fear. Get the hell out of here, Wanda growled under her breath. The origin magic power fully bloomed, and the terrifying power bloomed with her as the original heart, raging continuously to the surroundings. With the remaining sanity, Wanda did not cause widespread damage. Instead, let the power of Crimson, like a rope, bind the man who is addicted to the influence of SCP-166. In her roaring, constantly voice, a person was hoisted into the sky, and the crimson power was continuously entwined, like silk wrapped in a cocoon. The figures who were dazzled by their physiological instincts all fell into a stagnation. Crimson power. The power to twist the world. This is more than just talk. Even though Scarlet, which has not yet reached the peak level, but the strength of terror is still not to be underestimated. Is it over? Nick Fury breathed a sigh of relief. I am happy for my successful deception to Wanda. In one eye, the gaze moved slightly. Braised Dan is already thinking about how to turn Tutu, a non-staff member of Wanda, into an official member of the Avengers Alliance. Just awakening is so scary. The potential of Scarlet, which is no less than that of Scarlet Witch, once successfully joined. For the Avengers Alliance, the strength is definitely a qualitative leap. Unlike Team Shock, who need to help the Kree find their homeland and spend most of their time in Fugue, Wanda is a real power of the Earth and can be used anytime, anywhere. Practicality is not too strong. Just when a marinated egg was thinking about it. Picture on the screen. Instantly his eyes widened. What? How can it be? Nick Fury looked at the screen in disbelief. Hulk smash. Hulk attack. A beast-like roar sounded from the Green Titan. The angrier you are, the stronger you are. Infinite power swelled on the Green Titan, and its size quickly became more than 10 times larger. Then, relying on pure strength, he actually forcibly tore the shackles of the Crimson Power. How can it be? Wanda's pupils shrank, and she was shocked and speechless. Zila, thunder flashes. Soon, Thor also broke free from the shackles of the Crimson Power. Oddly enough, the meow meow hammer in his hand does not seem to be affected by the effect of SCP-166. Maybe it is the particularity of the material of the meow meow hammer, or maybe it is the special care of SCP-166 for him. The answer is unknown, but sure enough, Wanda is in trouble. Thor and the Green Titan looked at her covetously. Under the influence of special power, they have become crazy suitors of SCP-166, and they will jointly attack outsiders, especially the Green Titan. Under the influence of SCP-166, the strength of another personality in Banner's heart seems to have increased countless times. Boom! Absolute power almost blinded Wanda. And rumble. A terrible storm rose into the sky. In the dazzling lightning, Storm and Sheen appeared together. The two female mutants both have impressive powers, and once they appear on the stage, the situation will change suddenly. But just them. Nick Fury frowned, with suspicion in his eyes. It's not that he looks down on it, but the strength of Stormgirl and Sheen is basically obvious to all. Although the strength is not weak, among the superheroes, it can barely occupy the middle and upper reaches of the level, but compared to the first line Thor, and the Green Titan who is gradually breaking the rules. Not enough. Nick Fury shook his head, his expression becoming more serious. He lowered his head and frowned tightly. Try to find a few powerful female superheroes from a memory and reverse the situation in a short time. The power of the storm? Odin shook his head, endured the pain, and looked away, not caring about the eternal gun. Focus on the battlefield. Storm super ability is not bad, but compared with Thor, it is far behind. As for the other, ordinary mind control, psychokinesis rotation, and the simplest use of super abilities. Even more insignificant. Not enough. Odin shook his head, simply making a comment. It's a pity that Ancient One had to meditate for a period of time to suppress the balance of power in her body because she overabsorbed the power of the dark dimension. Otherwise, if she made a move, she would definitely be able to easily solve the target. Pity. Odin shook his head. I feel a little sorry for the radical behavior of the mutant group. It's just hitting a stone with an egg. No, Charles wouldn't be so stupid. Magneto shook his head. The one who knows you best is always your enemy. Magneto is undoubtedly the person most familiar with Professor X's personality. With his cautious and steady character, he will never play the ace in his hand without being absolutely sure. He still has the ridiculous ideal of the peaceful coexistence of mutant and human beings in his heart. There is no absolute certainty. He certainly won't take it lightly. Must. And something else. Magneto frowned, racking his brains, trying to figure it out. But, quickly, he's a no-brainer, because the answer has already emerged clearly. Her super ability is so terrifying. How is this possible? Magneto stared fixedly at the screen. This can't even call it super ability? On the battlefield, dazzling flames soared into the sky. The phantom of the majestic phoenix intertwined on Jean Grey. As if a god descended, the almost infinite power in her body allowed her to instinctively manipulate the surrounding matter and energy molecules, and all the power obeyed her changes. Mental power is fully awakened. The peaceful expression turned into an indifferent look, like an ancient god overlooking the world. Sandshine turns into a diamond. Scrap iron turned into gold. Would become steel. All material conversions are just a thought for Phoenix. Even if it's just Professor X intervening, awakening forcibly catalyzed, the temporary burst of combat power is still beyond everyone's imagination, crossing all timelines, surpassing the multi-universe, the strongest power in mutant. Various titles are added to it, even if it's just a young, ecological Phoenix forcibly catalyzed. Terrible power. Same as expected, the power of the Green Titan can indeed be enhanced without limit. After continuous expansion, it is enough to crush the horror of the multi-universe. However, Banner's body and spirit obviously cannot bear this kind of unlimited impact. Boom! Giant vibration. The impact of the Phoenix Force eventually overloaded him, causing him to lose all strength and pass out directly. Asgard. Phoenix Force. There is such a power in Midgard. Odin's pupils shrank. Phoenix Force comes from the primordial universe, was born at the beginning of all things, is the immortal, eternal but impermanent existence of chaos, and is the sun of the universe. It is the incarnation of life and spiritual power in the original universe, symbolizing life and emotion. Numerous definitions were imposed on her. An unchanged, *T, powerful beyond imagination. The complete Phoenix Force, in a sense, is a power that can dominate the infinite universe. That is to say, if that mutant can fully activate the Phoenix Force, she can even manipulate any person or thing in the infinite multi-universe and change their rules at will. A supreme existence that is more divine than a god. Once, Odin stands ready, gathering the entire planet to deal with the deity's power of the Celestials. In front of her, it's like a child's play trick. Even though the current Sheen is far from the strongest in awakening, the Supreme Phoenix Force has endowed her with the power of immortality, and she is even #1 in the multi-universe in terms of personality. Phoenix. The observer frowned. Something beyond the timeline appeared again. According to the normal progress, Phoenix Force shouldn't have woken up so early. Observers are eager to correct. But, looking at the containment on the Earth beyond common sense, he stopped immediately. Misfortune? There is no greater accident than this. The observer sighed deeply, sat on the rock dejectedly, always feeling that something was wrong in this world. Immortality, a power beyond the universe. Dr. Manhattan's pupil shrank. He is one of the few strong men who can see the essence of Phoenix Force. His brows are slightly wrinkled, and his eyes are deep. Did not expect, besides the Foundation, is there such a terrifying power? Manhattan shook his head. This time the containment was too weird, and he had no interest in coming out. If judged, will I be counted as a human male? Dr. Manhattan stared slightly, looking at Blue's skin reflected in the glass, with a complicated expression. The mutant has risen, Nick Fury murmured under his breath. He had this feeling from seeing the phantom of the Phoenix emerging from behind Sheen, as if a god descended. Wait until Doctor Strange convey the words of Ancient One and tell him the concept of Phoenix Force. This idea is completely settled in my heart. The power of the mutant. Perhaps. I can. Nick Fury frowned. The almost instinctive power of PY began to move again. Phoenix shockwave. The brilliance of the flame soared into the sky, and a shockwave in the shape of a phoenix swept forward. It easily defeated the extremely powerful Green Titan. Thor was even knocked out by the aftermath. Phoenix does not need to control the power file size at all. Anyway, Phoenix has. With the power of resurrection, Dead Man can be resurrected casually, which is completely an instinct for him. Under absolute power, the army of SCP-160 SXS Flower Guardian Messenger, soon ushered in a large-scale attrition, is also targeted early. Otherwise, when Xiaoying fell one by one and was affected by the power of SCP-166, the young ecological phoenix might not be able to hold on. Still, apparently there are no assumptions in the world. Get out of our time. A majestic roar rang out from Phoenix, as if it came from the judgment of the gods. Endless Phoenix Force blooms, pressing towards SCP-166. 0. Without those crazy Flower Messenger shots, Phoenix quickly suppressed SCP-166. C. Humanity's first successful containment case. To be born in full view. Next moment. No, don't kill me. I am afraid. The succubus girl Gia stared at her with tears in her eyes. The Catholic rosary is turning in his hand, as if he is praying for the protection of the gods. Phoenix is not a man. Definitely not affected by SCP-160 SIXS effects. But the rosary spinning in SCP-160 SIXS hand. The invisible fluctuations bloomed on her body, spreading outward like ripples. Light and shadow emerged behind her. Terrible fluctuations soared into the sky, and the surrounding space emitted bursts of ripples, as if unable to bear this terrifying existence. It began to collapse inch by inch. The breath continued to expand. It's just like some kind of terrifying existence is coming. The phantom continued to expand, and before the arrival of the Phoenix Force, it had already swelled to the point that it covered the sky and the sun. Before Phoenix's attack arrives, divinity blooms. It was clearly an illusory figure, but it actually stretched out its arms from nothingness. Delicate and fair, like white jade lotus root-like arms. Just a glimpse. It can make countless people affirm that this is definitely an extremely elegant goddess, and people can't help but yearn for it. However, it is such a white arm, stretching out from nothingness, gently probing towards Phoenix, who was rushing forward, unexpectedly suppressed her strength forcefully. With a lift of the palm, pinching Phoenix's vitals is like holding a little chicken. The terrifying Phoenix Force was in front of her. It was like a joke. Manipulator? Travel back in time and space. Mind control? All kinds of appalling powers are useless in front of him. The radiance of divinity blooms. Forcibly suppressed Phoenix. The Phoenix shockwave, which was still looking down at him just now, was all caught by him with one hand. Undeniably powerful. Make countless people speechless. His familiar way of appearing on the stage, and his dazzling divine brilliance. I knew it. Nick Fury was pacing back and forth, growling and frowning and not feeling well. He knew that the content of those exposed texts should not be underestimated, let alone ignored. 166 appears to be some kind of mysterious ancient existence. A Judd, isn't this confirmed? Moreover, judging by the posture, it is not ordinary ancient. The mighty brilliance flows, as if to replace the rules in the universe, forcibly replacing the original parameters. The domineering posture is exactly the same as the brilliance flowing from the three dead brothers. Perhaps far inferior in strength and weakness. But the essence of power is definitely in legendary again, divinity. In other words, in SCP, another god descends. And this time God, apparently the mother of SCP-166, that ancient mysterious being 8. How can it be? Her unknown mother actually exists? Odin's pupils shrank. He really thought that in the written description of SCP-166, the suspected mysterious ancient mother did not exist. Or, even if it exists, it is dead or missing. Otherwise, Odin will never let Thor go to deal with SCP-166, let alone throw the gun of eternity with a decisive blow, trying to kill SCP-166 to save his own idiot. Unexpectedly, it is true, Odin's expression was gloomy, and he couldn't believe it. Their luck, it must be too unlucky. Exposure content. Those nuns in the monastery, members of the Foundation, try to find the mysterious mother of SCP-166 countless times, but failed to find it. Result, put in front of them. As soon as you start it, the whole thing pops out. The key is the opponent's terrifying strength, the power that replaces the concept of the rule of the universe, flowing through him, is absolutely another kind of divine brilliance. In terms of size, far less terrifying than the three dead brothers. But no matter what, he is also from the divinity in the SCP, and even more terrifying, he, the mother of SCP-166, the entity descended this time, from phantom to reality. Not like the three dead brothers, a ray of divine light leaked from outside the universe. Instead, truly walk out of nothingness. The first one, the divine coming from SCP. In real life, it's not good. The observer frowned and silently took out the lighter in his hand. It's just a means of killing each other. Once the 387 is used, even if the opponent can be killed and suppressed, the impact will definitely be beyond imagination. Perhaps, can I try to make a shot? The observer's eyes were fixed, and his heart was ready to move. But after thinking of the horror of the three dead brothers, the observer couldn't help but stop. Who can be sure that the strength of divinity in SCP is really related to breath? After those seemingly common containments erupted with real power, didn't they surprise countless people? The coming of the divine nature of the first SCP cannot be overstated. And SCP-166 is still there. Will I be affected? The observer, like Manhattan, had the same question in mind. Originally, observers who have spent billions of years sitting and watching the vicissitudes of the universe will never care about these things. The old man's confidence gave him the confidence to despise these anomalies. But after the phantom of death 3 appeared. His inner thoughts completely changed. A terrifying existence comparable to the 5 great gods of creation, or even surpassing the 5 great gods, is actually a member of SCP. The 3 brothers have a deep breath, and their metaphysical concepts transcend the universe. It's obviously not the shame of Lin Xiu, a god who created the world. It's surprising that observers are not afraid. Phoenix will go first. She's a woman and won't be affected. The observer paused and put the lighter in his hand into the Minister of Collection again. Goddess, an existence comparable to that god again. Get rid of the evil. Try to bring the 2 forces in the body back into balance and repress the controlled tongue change. Under the emotional turmoil, the 2 forces that were about to balance in the body almost collapsed. No, it's far inferior to that existence. Ancient One frowned. Having personally been in contact with the 3 dead brothers, she clearly knows the horror of the supreme divinity. Even if only a ray of divine radiance flows, it still brings death to the entire universe. If it hadn't been for the Chi Machine to take the initiative to restrain in the end, even if she tried her best, it would be impossible to stop that kind of power. The divine radiance that appeared behind SCP-166 was significantly weaker, although still scary, but obviously not an order of magnitude. Ancient One frowned and continued to focus on his body. It's not that she doesn't want to make a move, but she couldn't do it. Because of the ray of brilliance against the supreme divinity before, the 2 forces in her body have been completely out of balance. If you don't try your best to suppress it and guide it back to the right track again, residing in her right eye, once the divine brilliance from the Dragon Mother dissipated, the impact on the Earth is absolutely no less than the previous horror. Kill. A pistol and a microcharger. Don't both have the same effect? All die once. Almost at the moment Kiki 9927 Black appeared, in the stagnant exposure frame. New content suddenly appeared, and the ink-like color was blurred into words to emerge. KT9927 Black Goddess / Mother. Type Divinity. The divinity that existed in prehistoric times possesses powerful power and is a terrifying reality bender. Her power is so powerful that it is like a curse that distorts her character. Designated as Type Black by the GOC. As a mother, she once fought against the god of war, Abel, after which Abel was sealed. SCP-166 was born together with Clef, the 4th Doctor of Apocalypse. It has multiple divinities, and the goddess and mother coexist. Exposure video. A scene of the fleeting battle between Mother and God of War, Abel emerged. The towering figure stood on the ground. The divine radiance flows, and even the related concepts in the universe bow their heads as if she is part of the rule. Divinity playing is getting more and more interesting. The trick of confusing the real with the fake looks really good. Collectors sneered disdainfully. Must be another trick of some ancient civilization. Maybe it's a technological civilization from the surface of the Earth, or a galaxy in the corner. The holographic projection is quite interesting, and it's quite realistic. But content? It's just too ridiculous. Supreme divinity? Unheard of. Now, another divinity has been formed, and this kind of power zone has never been heard of in the universe. He who is the ancient. Have enough confidence to overlook other civilizations. Because his existence is originally a history book that transcends civilization. With billions of years of life and life, the universe has long lost its novelty in his eyes. All secrets cannot escape his eyes. Divinity? Supreme divinity? The universe, there is no such thing at all. It must be another conjecture made by some technological civilization about the gods. Collector shook his head. After living for countless years, he has long been indifferent to all kinds of weird things. Can't arouse his curiosity at all. However, divinity, projection, these interesting techniques are very suitable for his collection. In his collection, there's just a lack of gadgets to embellish. Set off. Go to the solar system. Midgard near Asgard. Collector's cold voice sounded. Have to say, Tet, got a little interested. He. Hope you don't disappoint me. Collector turned the wrench in his hand. His eyes were full of cold eyes. If these gadgets could not meet the qualifications of his collection, he wouldn't mind having the whole globe shaped into glass beads to adorn his collection. Abel is the divinity of another god of war known as God of War. Nick Fury frowned, trying to get some information down. GOC sounds like an acronym for an organization. Could it be an organization similar to the Foundation? Nick Fury's eyes lighted up slightly, and there was a complicated look in them. If the answer is yes, hashtag B%, does it mean that, in fact, there are other organizations like the Foundation in the world that also have an understanding of the contained objects, and there may be more than one choice for human beings? Just when a certain black corned egg was thinking about it. KT 9927 Black. He also completely moved from nothingness to reality, from his arms to his body, all descended to the earth. The power of invisible blooms. Not 9927 Goddess, but Phoenix. The Phoenix Force on Jean Grey seemed to sense some danger. Actively broke the seal awakening. Beyond the multi-timelines, gained power from the primordial universe. The phantom of the Phoenix bloomed on her body, bathing in flames and turning into a phoenix. Jean, finally no longer a barely awakening juvenile body, but directly crossed the barrier of form and possessed the real Phoenix Force. Now, not so much that she's Jean Grey. It is better to say that it is an individual boarded by Phoenix. The real core. It's the Phoenix, not Jean. The core has been completely replaced by the Phoenix. Even if it is limited to the human body, it is impossible to make all the Phoenix sources appear. The Phoenix at this moment can at least show multi-level combat power, and countless timelines are changing behind her. 15. Dominant diverse gods. Phoenix. It's a real Phoenix Force. Odin's pupils puckered. He was clearly a man of knowledge. It is different from the piano borrowed from Phoenix Force. Now, it is obvious that Phoenix sensed the crisis and took the initiative to lower the Phoenix Force. The difference? Before that, I used the Phil Money account to try it out. The equipment is powerful, but the operation is a mess, and at most it can exert 2 or 3 out of 10 of its strength. Now, it's the technical masters who use the Phil Money account to play on behalf of them. On the basis of powerful equipment, it also complements the terrifying technology, various super-level performances, and super gods all the way. Phoenix Force. Is the content in the video true? Collector's pupils shrank, and there was a bad feeling in his heart. But he was quickly suppressed. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. There is no divinity in the universe, the supreme divinity. It must be a fluke of that technological civilization. I have only heard about the Phoenix Force. Collector shook his head. It has to be said that the stronger and older the existence, the more deeply rooted the concept. It is definitely not an easy task to let them break their inherent cognition and accept new things. Things are still so shattering. Call. The Phoenix is on the move. The observer couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, silently observing the universe. Observers who have opened up to various cosmic events know the horror of the Phoenix. Even if it's because of the size of the world and fear of crowding the entire Earth, Phoenix can't come here in person. A burst of Phoenix Force can suppress countless existences. That is the Phoenix beyond the multi-universe. Observers are brimming with confidence. It seems to have seen the scene of the Phoenix showing great power and eliminating this weird SCP. No way. These weirder SCPs appeared one after another. The impact on them is too great, especially for the belief in the heart of the strong. It can be called a devastating blow. If there is a familiar local strong who can personally defeat and suppress SCP, it will definitely bring a lot of confidence to rekindle hope in your heart. It's been a crushing situation all the time. It's just too depressing. But, luckily, Phoenix appeared. With her terrifying identity born in the original universe, she can definitely do it. The observer looked up confidently. 2. Exposing the content on the screen made his whole body almost crack. How can it be? How can this be? The short observer, looking at the picture on the screen, murmured silently with his eyes. The repeated content kept ringing, as if he lost his soul. On the battlefield, house. The phoenix soars into the sky, and the terrifying phoenix force seems to distort the world and create diversity. However, it was such a horrible attack. After appearing on the battlefield, it was Goddess 9927 who greeted her with an understatement. The suet-white jade-like arm was gently raised. The power to distort reality explodes. Unlike most cases, which are only the top goddesses of level 4 twisters, after inheriting the divine power of Mother, this prehistoric 9927 completely exploded with real power. Reality benders. Level 5. Among the known levels, the most terrifying existence. Level 6 is already a well-deserved world destroyer level. The survival of the world is only in their mind. Level 5 reality bender. In many cases, it is already unimaginable horror. Practicing power as she pleases, just like her 2.5 temper that makes people headache. 9927's reality distortion power is equally terrifying. Facing the attack of Phoenix, it is completely a breeze. Indescribable. Can't understand. There is no way to describe the power of doing whatever you want, let alone define it. One thing is for sure. Phoenix was hanged and beaten by 9927. The battle on the battlefield is completely one-sided suppression. The Phoenix force behind Sheen's body kept collapsing. From the original universe, the power beyond the upper limit of the universe, Phoenix Force definitely will not worry about consumption and can be replenished at any time, but Sheen's current body obviously has no way to support it. On the skin that was as white as snow, he could no longer bear the strength, and bleeding marks began to appear. Alien space. Do you have to make a move? Ancient One frowned. Phoenix is cold. If you want to suppress 9927, you must have at least level Godfather, or even higher strength. However, men dare not send out casually because they are afraid of the power of SCP-166. As for women, there are fewer superheroes than men, and they need a level above level Godfather. It is too difficult to find it on Earth in a short period of time. It's better for her to go directly to the top. But the two forces in her body are not yet fully balanced, and they may collapse at any time. Once she makes a move, they will basically die together. It is not so easy to sort out the collapse forces again. Basically a dead end. I am an Asgardian from the Earth dimension. Ancient One murmured softly, with a determined look on his face. Just when she was about to sacrifice her life for righteousness and burn herself to make the final contribution. Sky, a new existence, appeared, fell, finally come. The corners of Ancient One's mouth raised slightly, and a smile appeared on his face. Originally, the determination to die together also disappeared a lot.